How's it going, guys? Welcome to Ninja Knight's Real Talk. This is a different episode that we're doing this week. So this week what we're doing is we're going to have a chat with Philip Dwyer. A lot of people already know who Philip is. I've been talking about him here on the streams. I'm sure you're very well acquainted with Philip at this stage. We know that Philip was a former member of the National Party, made a big name because an awful lot of people liked Philip and still do. And they think he's an absolutely fantastic citizen journalist. And Philip has been dedicating himself to going around and asking tough questions to people that need to be questioned here within our government and also within our media. He has made more people run away than I've ever seen before. And this is a guy that will proudly say that he is no sort of journalist himself. And he's a guy that is just an average normie, as we all like to say, and we say here all the time. And he just likes to go around and ask the hard questions. So welcome, Philip. We see that you're living up to the lavish far-right lifestyle there behind you.
I just did a quick tidy up for you, Ninja. You know, the honour. It's an absolute honour now to be on with you and talking to you again, because I've been keeping a close eye on you. You know, I don't always get to see the live streams on a Friday, but the work you're doing, I have you down now as the Ireland's best podcaster beyond the shadow of a doubt. And wow. I just don't know where you get the energy, you know, how you do it, but you know, just to listen to the remarks and all of the witty remarks and the Dublin wit coming out of you and how you cover things and your take on things, and you know, you're a joy to behold. And ever since you started, the channel's grown and grown, and you know, you're keeping the algorithms away as well. And it's just, yeah, like, there's a great future. I can see it in you. And when we take back this country, yeah, you're going to be the new late night show.
And I appreciate that, I do, and it's great to hear such kind words. You know, like, I take all of these things. I'm very humble about this sort of stuff, and I really appreciate that, because, like I always say to people, you know, I'm only giving my opinion on what's going on. Like, you're boots on the ground, you're asking the hard questions of people, and need to be asked hard questions. And that's what I appreciate the most, you know, and especially then when you went down and covered what had happened after last Thursday. And I know me and yourself share the same thoughts, where people seem to want to move on from the incident that happened earlier in the day where children were attacked in broad daylight. They seem to want to talk about what went on in that evening. Just give us your thoughts, Philip, on that situation. I mean, you're someone that's been, you know, I would say you've been sounding the alarm for a very long time about an attack that happened like it did on that Thursday in broad daylight. Like, give us your thoughts on what sort of happened that day and what transpired, because you ended up being in there then that night covering live what was going on.
Yeah, absolutely surreal. As I said, yeah, you're right. We have been shouting from the rooftops, trying to warn people that this was going to happen, and then also trying to warn people about the public sentiment and how there is anger building up. It's bubbling there for a long, long time. And it all came to fruition on the Thursday of that horrific attack on those 3 children and their teacher. And really, that's what it's all about. That's everything myself and yourself and lots of other people online and you know, citizen journalists or whatever it is, broadcast content makers, we've been all saying the same thing as well. I mean, this has been bound to happen, and it's happened all over Europe and everywhere they've moved. All these basic strangers, undesirables, psychopaths, murderers, rapists, the dregs of these foreign countries, and they keep moving them in. And it's just going to happen. And unfortunately and sadly, I hate saying it, it's going to happen again. And nothing we can do or say seems to make them roll back or decide not to do it, not to continue doing it. And they just seem to be doubling down to the point where they're buying them tents and stuff like that. But as I said, the day in question, I was actually up the mountains with Palomine. We were doing a bit of a trek. I was up to my ankles in muck for most of the afternoon, and there was no phone signal up there. And then when we got down the mountain, back down to the cars, there was my phone started to light up, you know, with all the messages about what something had gone in town. So I committed the grave criminal offence by making a little video to tell the people, my followers on Twitter or whatever, that well, it's apparently a criminal offence now to say that I was going to go into town, into the city centre, as a free person in the country to cover the story on my Twitter or whatever. According to Paul Murphy, that's a criminal. That starts a riot. I'm responsible for starting a riot among 4 other people. So yeah, I went down, went home, got changed, got the car, met John, my help. And he's my security. You know, he helps me with camera work sometimes and that. And he watches out for me, and he does a great job, and I'm very grateful to him for that. So we picked him up straight into town, got parking, tried to make our way down to O'Connell Street. Kind of funny. It was like a bit of a movie. I was saying there before in another stream there, but like Saving Private Ryan. There was a fellow walking towards us away from the trouble up at Parnell Street or Parnell Square, and we were walking up like, "Oh, Phil, don't go up there. It's not up there." Like, I mean, he was getting. We were walking towards it, but it was that kind of feeling. It was like there was firework going past your head. It was like you could feel the tension. You could see these young fellas now weren't happy. The anger was really palpable. Like you just, I suppose, it's something I haven't experienced before. Even like back in Pearse Street and any other situations we were in, it was definitely the most volatile thing that I'd seen. And this is just before the real trouble started. So then we went up close to the public order unit and the guys with the shields. They were going across Parnell Square and blocking it off. You could see the cops behind. There was really this anger, and it's like the anger. I spoke to a foreigner today there around Pala, and I was doing some interviews, but Mike anyway that's another story. Mike wasn't one problem. They were saying, oh no, they weren't a foreigner. They were Irish students, right? God help us. Media studies they were doing in trying to tell me. I asked about what they think of Ireland, and they were talking about the riots, and they said they knew foreigners that were working in a shop on O'Connell Street that were afraid to come out. They said that there was guys, marauders, banging on the window trying to get in at them, because they were foreigners, And I said, well, I was in there, and I said none of that went on. I mean, that's ridiculous. There was even foreigners looting the shops, and Irish people didn't pull them down, drag them down by the scruff of the neck, and take the stuff off them and put the stuff back in the shops, which most people we probably should have done. So where was it? Yeah, so the stuff there was anger in there that it was directed towards the police, and in a way, like as we said, I don't condone the violence. I'm always trying to tell people, to stay peaceful and do whatever you're going to do. Do it with your words and your brain and your mind or whatever. But these guys now, you could see that it was definitely going to kick off. It was going to get nasty, and it did. And they were, I suppose, there was no direction. There was nobody looking out for any foreigners to just grab a foreigner and string them up from the nearest lamppost. That's all nonsense. So when the guards came down towards Pearse Street or towards Parnell Street, obviously they tried to split us up, and a few of us got broken up into Parnell Street, and then this car started, and people are talking online about age of provocateurs and things like that. Can I prove that? No, I can't, but I would hazard a guess to say definitely there was some kind of underhandedness going on. The majority of the guys, the young lads that were there, were probably sound and just angry. A good few of them knew who I was. They watched me stuff online or whatever. They'd say, "Hey, you Philip," or whatever. But the vast majority, there was a small minority of them that were just out for thuggery and just to do damage. And I wouldn't be surprised if there was an odd few cops in there, and there was a few anti-bar heads in there as well. But I just can't prove that. The cars being left in Parnell Street that were open or not open, there's a lot of conspiracy about that. I don't know. I mean, you could easily smash a fly window and pull up the lock of the car as well. And did the cops leave the cars there specifically to be burned or whatever? And there's a lot of stuff that's being said that I can't verify myself, but it didn't feel right. And this thing with looting shops and all that, breaking windows. I mean, that's not what we're about. That's not what I'm definitely not about. Anybody on our side that has ever gone to protests, even the time when you had the guy with the fireworks, Rocket Man, up on Grafton Street. You know what I mean? Even that time when the cops charge people now because of one fella doing something stupid, that they ran down a contract beating everybody, and then there was still no windows broken that day or any riots. So whatever happened in there, I suppose that area, you and I and all the Dubs and a lot of people know that area. That is kind of the wrong place for that kind of thing to happen as well. I mean, if that happened out if it happened out in Dalkey, they'd be all lighting candles and having a vigil for it, and blaming the far right. But these lads in that area, you do not mess around in there. You do not go in there acting the hard shot or do something like that, because they'll deal with you, and they'll deal with you their way. And I think that a mixture of all of that was the cause. But of course, our warped government are just so hell bent, and this is why I'm telling people this is going to happen again, folks, because these people refuse to acknowledge the actual root cause of the problem, and the root cause of the problem is our crazy immigration process that we have, and the lack of enforcement of our immigration laws. It's as simple as that.
Of course.
So it's like so the rest of the evening, that's when so most people saw when this Garda inspected them, when we were kind of split up, and a load of people went down back to Parnell Street. They burned out the cars, started breaking windows, but then there was a kind of a roar from cops, and it was kind of caught. We were kind of caught off guard or whatever. It was caught, and I can't run as fast as I used to, but a guy with a shield caught up with me, and he gave me 2 smacks of the baton, and it was going on. And then your man, that inspector guy, he, there's no way in this that he didn't know. He definitely knew who I was, and he just lashed into me with the baton as many times as he could, as hard as he could, done a lot of damage to my legs. It's like, now look, I played hurling, I've got plenty of smacks in my day, whatever. But there is, the next day you see the extent of the damage that he did. A couple of hospital visits and all that, still not there yet, but then you're not there. Like, it's not going to put me down, and it's not going to put a lot of other people down. It's kind of something that I kind of half expect to happen at some point when you're in there covering stuff at protests and stuff like that. There are some of them in there that are waiting for their chance and their opportunity to inflict damage on people like us. Their own people. As I said to you earlier in the thing, when I looked at the footage up above, I released that video there. Somebody sent to me, some kind patriot sent to me. Thanks for that. But it was like the fact that he held my sleeve, and I tried to tell him I was media or whatever. He knows exactly who I am. I'm a citizen journalist. And he held my sleeve as he was beating me, so I couldn't even get away from him properly, because he was holding on to me, and for the reason of inflicting as much damage as he could. So I just took a few deep breaths. Anyway, started the stream went off, and then I started again, and then we ended up going around the back of Marlborough Street there, and back onto O'Connell Street, and then covered the rest of the madness. It was really I'm really surprised nobody was badly hurt or killed that night. It was so volatile, somebody falling, bang their heads, or what I mean. It was something that was really, really, it felt really dangerous to me, and it did feel like a war zone. And there was times when the bus was set alight, and the cop car was set alight on O'Connell Bridge, and when the bus went, the flames got higher. The cables from the Lewis broke and snapped, and they actually just fell down beside us, very close to people. I mean, that could have been absolutely lethal as well. Nothing happened, thank God. I actually later on walked into one by mistake on O'Connell Bridge, and thank God it was after being switched off, But it was like stuff like that were like, there was explosions in the buses and that, like those buses. I mean, have a lot of fuel on them and whatever else. Really, really dangerous stuff. And there was talk about the army. People were showing me pictures of the army there waiting to come in, and you just didn't know how ruthless the cops were going to get then. People were watching their backs. I had Johnner, of course, watching my back, so which helped. He was pulling and dragging me for a bit there, I have to say. But leave me alone for a second. I'm trying to get the shot here. I just have to cover this part or whatever, But at the same time, it was deadly. And then I was parked up in the train station in what would you call it, Houston Station. So there was no, we literally had two of us were limping up like it's like something out of the American Civil War. We need to crutch. The two of us are walking up the quays on our own, doubling up, bruised and battered and swollen legs, So look, I mean, there was the Gareth Murphy was in there as well. He did a live stream on his YouTube as well.
Yeah, I saw that.
I bumped into him, and we brought up the fact that when we start chatting on the streams, that we're after been trying to tell people about this stuff. Like, I mean, this is just bound to happen. If you don't, if you don't manage things, properly, and you leave the people, and you abandon your people, there is always going to be this carry on, and there's just no way around it. Like, it looks to me, lots of people are saying, yeah, this is what they want, and it was just kind of I regretted it because it gave them what they want in a way, you know what I mean? And now they're talking about the hate speech laws, which they can shut up their arses. I mean, it's not gonna change me in any way, or you know what I mean?
Of course,
what they like. And I'm sure most of the people in the chat here are feeling the same way. But yeah, I mean, it went on for a while in there. You kind of didn't know whether it was going to get any worse or better or whatever. You were kind of terrified of what if it got worse. I mean, were people going to attack guards? Were guards going to get hurt or killed? Was the young fellas going to get hurt or killed? That was kind of a worry for me. But thankfully, I don't think anybody was seriously injured in there.
Yeah.
But and at the same time, like the crazy stuff we saw. I mean, this is how weak the country has become. Ninja is like, yeah, there were the riots there that were caused by the murder of three children by a foreigner who shouldn't be in the country, up the road from O'Connell Street there. And then the riots go down and they start breaking shop windows and everything. And one of the first things I see is a migrant, an African, and a Middle Eastern guys coming out of these shops robbing. They had the gall to show their faces in there and loot the shops where the guys had broken the windows or whatever.
Yeah, it's very American.
Huh?
It's very American, and that's what I've been saying for the last while. It seems like a playbook, you know what I mean? Again, like you were talking there as well, it seems very playbookish, because what I mean by that is you've seen similar events transpire in America, and when those events happen in America, you're looking at what's going on here, and you're saying, well, it seems like they've just transplanted the idea across to here, because our own people are viscerally and very unhappy about what's going on. And like you said there, you have people that have been accepted into this country through whatever means, and I particularly believe through a means that's totally unfair. And I think there's an awful lot of people out there gaining the system. And I also then think our politicians haven't looked after us anyway at all. And you see people then entering our country by the grace of people that are calling themselves our leaders, and then they go and do that. Now, as you point out as well too, it's not everybody, but certainly, you have an incident like what has happened to these children during the day, and then these guys go out and do that night. There is an element there for sure, and I would say that you've got people riled up during that day, but then the lunacy takes over then, and then this is what they try to do. Then the narrative, as you know, has shifted as well through the media. They're all making documentaries on Virgin Media. They're saying, oh my God, guys, the far right took over there on that Thursday night. And you're going, hang on, guys, you're not actually even going back to what happened to the children during that day. Like, you've totally bypassed that, and they're looking to not talk about it at all. They're actually looking to try and minimize it, in my opinion. And the longer things and time goes on, like, we are now, I think, 3 weeks out from the incident itself. Like, what is the update on the kids? Are they okay? What is the update on the carer? Is she okay? What's happening there? They're talking about arresting the guy that had committed the offense, but nothing's been done yet. Yet you have the government then. Again, it's the age-old phrase, never let a good crisis go to waste. And you have them now talking about facial recognition systems. You have them talking about body cameras on Gardaí, totally escalating. A hate speech needs to be included. The journal, the urinal, allegedly, spitefully on that one, went around there during the week, and then they were like, how many foreigners can we interview and see how afraid they are of being in Dublin now? And you're looking at it and you're going, like, this is a narrative that's been driven very clearly and very obviously. And because we have had seen what's gone on in America, it is real obvious now to go, yeah, this is what's going on now, because they've transplanted the same ideas to here, but we've gotten a bit of a one-up, I suppose, on the government and the establishment, because you've seen it happen in America and gone, hang on, it's happening here now too. So I just wanted to bring you back to the point that you were saying there, Phil, about Paul Murphy. What was it? A lot of people that are here now might not have seen the comments or might not have seen what was said online, but what happened in the DAW with relation to Paul Murphy? Would you enlighten the people there?
Yeah, well, I just snuck out a video there on me Twitter. If somebody and he's wanted to go into it there just before I came on, I was trying to edit it and get it off. But yeah, so Paul Murphy the next day I think stood up on the doll, and he used a cowardly and he used his dog privilege to name 5 people who were in town who were the so-called far-right racist bigots. Totally libelous. If he was outside the doll, he'd been, you know what I mean. He'd lose his house basically for the Bible he put up, and like ludicrous statements. I remember he talked about Ferg saying, you know, that allegedly there's a child dead, and that's what we heard. Like so, and get up off your asses and get into town. You know, that's supposed to be the cause of a riot, and then. I said on a video before I went into town that I was heading into town. I'll be in there for 6 o'clock. I'm going to cover this story or whatever. But that's supposed to merit you getting arrested and causing a riot. Even though through all of the streams, I was clearly saying, you know, it was so volatile in there that I wasn't even going to go near. The fire brigade was getting attacked and I was disgusted looking at it. But it was so volatile in there. I said to myself, if I go over there, they might think I'm RTE. I might get backwards, you know what I mean? And I said, I'll leave that one alone. And it's just too serious here now. So, yeah, it's like with Murphy, he used that dog privilege and he called out Chopper O'Keefe and he called out Gavin Pepper and myself. Who was the 5th?
Ferg.
Ferg, myself, Chopper, and Gavin Pepper. Was there one more? But anyway, like and the far right this and the far right that, all that is you know, it's deflection. They know exactly, and I actually do think they're terrified now at this stage, and so they should be, because they know themselves that they are the cause of this. Nobody else. Every single one of those tower eggs in the doll are the cause of what happened to those beautiful children on Parnell Square 3 weeks ago, and they know it, and deep down they know it, and the people are going to come for them. When the people are starting to wake up, it's 80-90% now are against all this migration, this mass migration nonsense, and that's going to start. There'll possibly be another. God forbid, I pray there isn't, but if and when there is, the people will come again, and they will want justice, and they will want to find out and figure out how this all came about. And when they do figure it out, we have all the people, we have them all archived, we have all the evidence, and it'll be quite easy to bring these people to justice when the time comes. They kind of don't seem to think. I think the great Garrett Murphy said in a stream with Keith Woods there last week, he summed it up really well. He says they don't seem to think that their time will come when they're going to lose power, and how they're going to be able to talk their way out of what they did and the harm that they've done. They don't seem to be in that space that they're capable of contemplating that what answers will they have ready for people when they're put up in front of a tribunal or a court or whatever to be put on trial for their crimes. They don't seem to. It doesn't seem to compute with them. So, you know, please God that day will come soon. So the likes of Murphy, you know, I put up that little video, and at the end of it, I showed the article in the Irish Times where he's talking about his child, his son, that he said they're not going to treat it as any gender, but they're going to let him choose his own gender when he's old enough. That again, to me, that's out and out. That's psychological child abuse, out and out, and that deserves a criminal prosecution as well. So, I mean, all these things, I don't think they realise and the insanity of what they're doing. They don't realise the harm of what they're doing, and it's bizarre. Really, it's quite bizarre that these people have gotten into these places, whereas the people who are trying to do the right thing are being labelled as the evil ones and the cause of all Ireland's problems or whatever, you know. At my age, I never could have imagined how absolute crazy these politicians could have become, you know. And I keep saying I hold my hands. I was one of these people who fell asleep and kind of partied for a few years during the good times and all that, and then suddenly you wake up and see, holy shit, the damage that's actually been done here. It's crazy, you know.
Absolutely, and like you're saying as well, you have politicians that are going overboard into territory that just doesn't make sense. I mean, you know, if you're Paul Murphy, like you're looking at, say, for example, even the protests that occurred outside his house, and yeah, he still continues with the rhetoric. You know, it's a very strange thing to do, and very similarly as well too with Helen McEntee. You know, you have a look at her and you see like all of the people that are regularly telling her online that they're not for her stuff, they're not for the hate speech or anything that she's supporting. You have multiple emails, I'm assuming, that are going into the likes of the Dáil and into the Shannon as well too, to tell them that they're not supporting what they want to do, and yet they still are just ploughing on. Now you've got Leo Varadkar that's actually locking his replies on his Twitter, which is something that has happened in the last couple of weeks, which is quite interesting because obviously they really now realize that people are not having it anymore, and particularly on social media platforms. You know, we've heard an awful lot of people, and they've seen the videos, I've showed the videos here of people running the likes of Sinn Féin politicians even away from their doors. And people, I think that's more jarring, I think, to more people than anyone else. What I mean by that is people are looking at that and they're going, Sinn Féin have been ran from doors. What's going on there? Like, obviously, Fine Gael and Fianna Fáil and Labour and all that, the sock dems, I mean, they're now putting up a man that thinks he's a woman. You know, it's insane stuff. And you're looking at it and you're going, that doesn't make any sense. But what seems to be a real lightning rod for a lot of people is that when Sinn Féin now have been totally exposed as to what they're doing, it seems to have woken a lot more people up, which is quite interesting. Like, everyone sort of expects Fine Gael and Fianna Fáil to do stupid things and get up to stupid behaviour. But going back on what we were saying there, you know, it is very interesting that these politicians have chosen to go down this route and have chosen to do this, because it's as simple as this. Why would you not like to be a politician that's well liked and loved within your own country? Instead, you're going to be pretty much disliked. Now, that's not to say we don't have people here in Ireland, and I've seen many pictures and stuff like that and videos of them when they go to the likes of, you know, shows and openings of ceremonies, and you've got the old Gombeans standing there smiling with them and shaking hands. But anybody that I know wouldn't do it, you know, that sort of way. But there are there's an element of people there that will, and I think that's why politicians do feel constantly emboldened to do what they're doing. You know, my attitude on this whole thing, we need a party absolutely 100% to be formed. And I do think there's a number of parties that are out there that are quite good. And I'm just saying the chat there even as well too. Derek Bloig was the fifth guy that was put up there in that post.
Sorry, Derek. Yeah, Jason, you killed me for that. For forgetting.
Yeah. So no, look, I mean, Derek's doing Trojan work as well too. Like, he's going out and doing a really good job with Ireland Force, and I think that I think it's a really strong statement. And I also then think that the way the media have decided to attack this with naming five guys, I mean, it's the Streisand effect. Everyone's going to go, who are those guys? What are they doing? What are they saying? Ireland for the Irish? Oh, no, yeah, I'm for that. You know, it's a bad move from these people to do that. And I think it's only served to strengthen this side of the fence, where people are like, I didn't know there was anybody that felt and thought like me. Do you know what I mean? Like, I started this channel as well too, the same thing. I started talking about entertainment and various other things. And then I started talking about what's going on in this country, because you couldn't look away from it anymore. And then I just found that there was so many other people that were like me that were thinking the same thing, like, this is ridiculous. Like, the Gardaí are running in there with batons into people there in Dublin city centre, but they're not hanging around the borders like the likes of the airport. They're not hanging around any docklands when any of these people come in. They're not batting any of them away from the shores. Do you know what I'm saying? And like, that reasoning, I think a lot of people see that and go, yeah, no, admit that. I get that. You know what I mean?
And this is where the anger, boils up. You know what I mean? And these young fellas in town, I mean, these guys, a lot of these fellas have nothing else to lose. I mean, they've no future ahead of them. And because of the policies and the lack of, morality and the lack of duty from the guards, they're neglecting their oath and everything else, where they're there to protect the borders and enforce immigration laws, and you know what I mean. Yep. And they're a big part of it. If they did their jobs, that this is all stop tomorrow. You know what I mean, and arrest the criminals, the real criminals who are asking them to do giving them unlawful instructions. So I mean, this anger is going to be, and it's like, in a way, I mean, it's a pity that these young men hadn't even got, there was no direction there on our leadership there on that Thursday night, like, that could have kind of controlled them and maybe calmed down the situation or whatever. And that was unfortunate, because I mean, that anger is there, and it's quite righteous anger, like, and like I said, none of us condone any criminal acts or whatever else. But it's like, it's a pity. And then hopefully, with the likes of McGregor now coming on and out publicly and making statements, and he's a proper far right Nazi now by all accounts in the media. So hopefully someone like him, might encourage these young fellas now even to get out and vote, join the party, get political, register to vote, I should say, and keep an eye now on what the government are doing. And like, I don't know, like, I mean, I say to people doing this, it's like, on the first thing, when you were saying earlier there, it's like that these people that we're dealing with, these Helen McEntees and all that, and they, who are doubling down on stuff and putting in, men as women as going for election and stuff like that. I mean, they really don't know who they're dealing with on our side, because I mean, most of the people I'm talking to are pretty similar to myself. I mean, I'm in this, you know what I mean? This is life or death for me. I mean, you know what I mean? They can take me out, they can bait the shit out of me with battens and anything else. I couldn't care less. At the end of the day, it's like these fans wouldn't be able to put up with any pain or hardship like that the people we're up against. And they just think they have the narrative, they have the government on their side, they have the authorities on their side. But when that goes, these people will just be gone. And they just don't realise who they're actually dealing, and the caliber, and I'm talking about intellectual caliber as well. I mean, I keep, I've been talking about Keith Woods there, reposting a lot of stuff there lately. I mean, that man is just, he's after doing so much for this country to push back, and not just for the country, for the world, to push back on the real enemy of what's happening to us here. You know what I mean? I mean, we all have our own governments to deal with. We have our own countries to look after. But the guy has so much brains and intellect and passion for his country. And passion for what's right and wrong, and it's not about left or right anymore. It's just right or wrong, good and evil. And everybody can see that what we're dealing with here is just pure evil. And I say to people who are going around and they're doing protests in villages and all, it's a DP centre going on, they're trying to be diplomatic and they're trying not to be called a racist and everything else. And it's like, no, you don't negotiate. What's happening to your area is pure evil. It's putting our women and our children at risk of being murdered or raped. And it's evil. And you do not compromise with it. You just say, put the foot down, and you say, no, this is not happening in this area, and send these people back and get them out of the country. That's the only answer, and that's the only way it should be dealt with, in my view. It's what's going on in abroad or whatever. It's the same enemy, abroad that we have here, in my opinion. And the likes of Keith Woods and Gordon as well is up there for. To me, anyway, these are the future of this country that will be there to write policy documents. They'll be there to, put in place legislation, a constitution that please God, this kind of stuff will never be allowed to happen again. That you cannot change a constitution with God-given rights in it. Not given by governments, they're given by God. And it has to be enshrined into a constitution where it can never be interfered with or messed around with.
And you're seeing so many people around the world cover about what's going on. I mean, my old boy often talks about the Lotus Eaters. You're seeing Saudi Cracker cover us. You're seeing the likes of Stephen Crowder cover us. You're seeing Russell Brand cover us. You're seeing Elon Musk getting involved in things now as well too, which is phenomenal to think that you've got such heavy hitters on this side. And then you have Conor McGregor, who's someone that has been asked to speak up about what's going on for a long time because he has a massive following. And I think, a number of things, in my opinion, I think has pushed McGregor to do what he's doing. I think he does obviously feel that way, but I also think as well too, with the hassle and harassment he's gotten, in my opinion, again, from An Garda Síochána with the likes of the driving situation and all that, I think he said to himself after an amount of time, and I've had enough of this now. Like, this is ridiculous. There's literal criminals running around the place, and these people are harassing me for driving my car. Do you know what I'm saying? And I think that's like, when you just come down to the fundamentals of that, you're going, well, that makes sense then, that he's had something wrong with what's happening here with politicians for a very long time. And I'm just gonna read a statement from him here today, and I'm just gonna get your thoughts on it, Philip, but also as well too for the chat, so people that don't possess Twitter now. So Ocean FM reported, they said Ballyshannon is set to become home to 90 refugees from Tuesday, December 20th. Now, a lot of people in these areas have said we don't agree to this. They're forming barricades, particularly in the countryside. I mean, amazing stuff that you're seeing. And now they're being called far-right racists, bigots, and all of these sort of names. They don't wash anymore. Nobody cares, you know what I mean? No one's interested. But McGregor responded to this, and I think this is very, very telling, because it's letting you know that people are starting to come back to the way it was beforehand, which was not afraid to say things. So he says this phenomenon, which began early 2023 in East Wall, Dublin, has been seen happening non-stop across the length and breadth of Ireland. Greed on the part of failed hoteliers and building owners, as well as the bus companies. Destabilisation on the part of government. Surely it is this. You cannot tell me this procedure isn't a major lapse in the security of our country. If 10 years ago, when figures of entrance were a fraction of what they are now, we allowed a man with a dangerous criminal record slip through the cracks, gain state support, and then murder one of our own in broad daylight as she was out jogging, how do we expect more of the same not to slip through the cracks now? When numbers are so much higher, we are not prepared for this, not via our housing, not via our health system, not via our screening processing, yet it is continuing as if we are. On Taoiseach, you scumbag, you maggot, you are a bootlicker of foreign entity. You are not Irish. You are a European crook. You said you are not asking for the permission of our communities if you can house these people in our towns. You are telling. The communities will grant you the same courtesy and not tell you they are going to stop it. You are harbouring the ruination of Ireland. Shame on your mother. I mean, wonderful statement. Yeah. There's nothing there that I don't agree with. You know what I mean?
I retweeted that this morning, and I saw, and I just quoted on it. It's probably your best tweet yet, Conor. Because I did, like, he's surprising everyone, I think, in a way that he's very kind of clued in, and he's very smart about what's going on, and his replies and responses to some of the criticisms he's getting have been very good. I mean, I've talked to a few people now, on the higher echelons of the intellectual spectrum, let's say on our side, that have said the same thing. They're really impressed with the way he's responding, the way he's answering. But I mean, look, no one's perfect either, and but please God, now he'll roll in behind us all, and he'll start helping us push back with this. Because, and you were saying about the cops and things like that. Yeah, you could be right. My own personal view is that he's had his fourth child there last week. He's got 4 beautiful kids. He's got a beautiful young daughter there. I'm sure he's looking at her saying, that could have been her on the steps at school in Parnell Street. And that's the thing with this, that like every parent should feel that way, that your child is vulnerable now with these people. And he's stressing there that, this guy that got in, Puskett, got in 10 years ago, I'm a gypsy, he never did a tap in his life over here, gets a 4 or 5 bedroom house in Tullamore. Having kids that he can't pay for himself, getting all the children's allowance and everything else. I believe there was I can't verify, a couple of 19D Audis outside in the driveway. And he's saying if that's what can get in 10 years ago when there was better immigration checks, imagine it's insane to think that we're not letting in other psychopaths now. That wouldn't come here, that are trying to evade justice in their own countries. They hear a post from Roger O'Gorman in a different land, come over here and you'll get in here, you won't need documents, and you'll get a gaff after 4 months. It's insane to think that you wouldn't attract criminals, rapists, murderers, psychopaths. It'd be crazy not to think. And I mean, this doesn't seem to register with these politicians. I mean, it's fascinating to me that the psychology of it is crazy,
And the thing is, he possesses such a massive following that you would think that they would want to have him on side, but yet he's totally off the leash now for them. And what's interesting to me, and see, this is the thing even I've tried to articulate over the last couple of weeks, which is, when McGregor was fighting, he knew personal details about people. Like, can you imagine the amount of politicians and media members now that are probably very afraid with the personal details that he might hold? Because this is what I think an awful lot of it comes down to. I think that they're starting to try and backbite him now, and I think they might try and back off, because you've seen articles in the last week or so that have sort of semi-praised McGregor, which has been really interesting to see, because I think they realise, oh shit, we're in trouble here. Because this guy will literally say anything. Like, he's a multi-millionaire. He's friends with Dana White. I know that Dana White has backed up a little bit this week with relation to the Bud Light thing. But, I mean, Dana White in the last couple of weeks has been saying, no, I'm proudly voting for who I'm voting for, and I'm going to say it out loud. there's a real cultural shift, I think, happening around the world. And I think with someone with such a massive following, whether you agree with him or not on various different things, that's kind of irrelevant at the moment. And I'll just say, I paraphrase from Satirical Soldier, as long as he's saying the things that I want him to say, happy days. Do you know what I mean? And this is the thing. The message needs to get out, and the message has been read loud and clear by a lot of people. And I think that's important. You don't have him. You've got nobody here in this country with such a followership that could be putting that message out. So I know people have their differences and all that, and I get that. But what's important is the bigger picture when you see how that message can spread out. The next thing that I wanted to ask you, Philip, was that you were down in Offaly, and I just want you to detail what's going on. The video you came out with yesterday, you posted up on Twitter. So you were in Offaly, and there was two Gardaí that were, in my opinion, they were asking very silly questions, and they were behaving very immature, and I would say very unprofessional. So can you tell us what went on? Can you even go a play-by-play through the video of what was going on?
Yeah, I just put that up because I was just trying to show people again another example of how the Gardaí in this country have deteriorated the standards of policing. And again, it's another kind of a view, an insight into why we're in the situation we're in. Like these people are so, how would you describe it? Unintelligent. They don't. I remember a guy I used to know years ago went and joined the force about 15 years ago. He was in his 30s. He had a family, a couple of kids, and he joined. And when he came out of Templemore, I mean, he was telling me and this guy is a smart, savvy guy. He's a Dublin lad. Good looking, fit guy. And he came out of Templemore. He was kind of just, I said, what was it like in there? And the bottom line was, he said, Phil, you wouldn't believe what they're putting through there. You know what I mean? Half them fellas couldn't wipe their own arses. Do you know what I mean? Without the plan. And he was being serious. And that was the first, and that wasn't why anything really at that time, but he said, they were bringing in these guys, the bottom, the dregs. I mean, these fellas were just either stupid or, incapable or whatever. And he couldn't believe the standards set. And I know from his own, he had a good professional job before he went in, and he kind of got sick of it. And he went in, and I know he would have been top of the class nearly, you know what I mean, for all his tests and even the physical side of things. So just try to show the guards in just reality. I mean, this is like I went up into that town. I was telling you earlier that the great the Irish git Michael Brazel, he had put up a post about a possibility that we're putting in a DP centre, direct provision centre, in the middle of the town, right next door to a primary school and a secondary school or whatever. So I wasn't too far away, and I said, I'll go down and I'll do a little video down here and I'll cover the story or try and get some information. And when I arrived down, I'd never been in Banagher in my life before. I stopped in Banagher. A beautiful town on the Shan with the boats and the cruisers coming in and out. Ordinarily be an idyllic place to go and stop on your holidays or whatever you're from the Shan. So when I arrived, I walked up the main street, and then I see in the distance the cop cars, a couple of cop cars. Got a bit closer. There was an armed response unit there. There was an ambulance. So I went past the first car who was stopping the traffic, the cars from going up, and never said a word to me. Just walked up, got a bit closer, got to the second car of the car, and I stopped there or whatever, and got involved in a bit of chat with the guards, and I tried to say, listen, I'm just going to do a report on this or whatever. And then they just went for me. No, you can't do that here. But we were at least 200 yards away from the scene. They were keeping people back on that line so that we would be a safe distance away. So I wasn't interfering with anyone. I had no intentions of interfering with anything to do with the scene or whatever. I was just going to make a report to say, here I am, just arrived in Banagher by coincidence. There's a major incident going on in the town. Something that was newsworthy, it's just, to me, it was news that needed to be covered.
Of course.
So these two clowns, especially the female guard, she was very aggressive. She was walking into me, pushing into me, and I'm looking at her. I said, what are you doing? What? I'm here. I'm just going to do a report with the camera and not mic or whatever. I'm nowhere near the scene. I'm not passing your line. And they were just making stuff up out of their head, oh, you have to go down here, you have to go down there, or whatever. And that guard, you can't go past that guard. And there was loads of other people going past. When I say loads, it was a few had gone past. Not a bother, as long as you didn't go past their car on the street. And so that was it. I was there to cover that thing on the with the convent. the guy in question, I mean, he was enjoying himself. He was looking. I thought he was kind of enjoying the notoriety of being. He was going to be online. You know what I mean? And he was going to be get the better of me. You know what I mean? And argue and asking me what's an Irish citizen journalist, as if that was kind of to stymie me. You know what I mean? Or make me, you know, falter. You know, it's like
He knew your name. Am I correct in saying he knew your name before
yeah,
you get?
he did. And I thought about that. Yeah, I didn't tell him my name at all. He knew my name. So yeah, he was trying to kind of confuse me, but I definitely hadn't at that stage when he called him my name. I hadn't said my name to him at all. So I was trying to say, oh, how do you know that? You know, but the only reason I kind of put up an argument with them or whatever was because they were only doing that for political reasons. They didn't like my politics. They didn't like the fact that I was there. I'm going around the place asking hard questions to people around the country. I'm exposing their negligence, I suppose, in a lot of ways. And that's why I said, no, they can't do this. This is politicized, and you have no right to just do your job, protect the scene, the line there, and just let me go on and do me. That's all I wanted to do, a little broadcast and put a bit of news out there for the local area. And it was like horrendous harassment and bullying. I mean, it was like, and again, it's the female Garda. She was the worst. I was walking away. She still kept pushing into me. I don't know what kind of law they were acting under, like, or you know, because obviously there isn't a law that they were acting under, you know.
Yeah.
But it's like, it's kind of, you know, it was funny in a way, but it is really serious at the end of the day, because as a result of the incompetent police and guards in this country, people are suffering. You know what I mean? And don't get me wrong, there are guards that do great things and have to do horrible things as well, and they get dogs abuse and everything else. But it still doesn't excuse the fact that they're saying nothing. And people are saying to me, I see online there's some groups and that they say, you know, oh, the guards are all right. You know, a lot of them aren't happy with it either and everything else. But I tell you one thing, Ninja, I don't know where they are. None of the off-duty ones, none of the ones that resigned or the ones that retired have come to me or anyone else that I know that are making content and said, listen, I want to talk to you and tell you about what's really going on in the guards, and, you know,
yeah.
Morale. And
it definitely seems to be a group thing by the ideology amongst them, doesn't there, an awful lot of the time?
Unbelievable, yeah. It's unbelievable that nobody really has come forward and said, you know, this is what's been going on in the guards. It's crazy. These are the crazy instructions we're getting. These are the indoctrination. And the latest I heard as well with the diversity officers now. I thought there was 234 at the last time I checked. And I just recently heard there's 431 diversity officers in the Garda Síochána.
That's crazy.
So they're going around looking for people like me and you who are saying mean words, you know, and talking about stuff that we shouldn't be talking about.
And isn't that interesting as well too, when you hear about then that they're looking like whatever about, and this is the thing I like to point out an awful lot of the time, is like, you were, in my humble opinion, you were viciously assaulted in Parnell Square, or Parnell Street, I should say. And I'm looking at that incident and I'm saying to myself, like, this is one of our own people doing that. Like, what hope would we have then when you have someone that's coming from a shithole of a country that's been told to do those sort of things? Like, whatever moral compass we're asking our own people to have, like, there's other people that are going to come over, they're going to be in that uniform, and they are going to have zero interest in that. And that, I tell you why that kind of makes me think, is especially because when you're seeing the Gardaí and through the media and through the government as well too, complaining about GSOC and saying, well, we don't have the ability to do what we need to do and do what's needed to be done. And I'm looking at that going, all right, that sounds very strange, because you are already on camera doing things that are very out there. And now you're telling people that you don't like to have someone over the corner of your shoulder, or I should say over the over your shoulder, looking in at you in case your behavior isn't good enough. That's very worrying, because not only is that worrying because you've obviously got our own buffoons that are in there, but you're going to have other people then too then that are going to avail of the same ideology, where they're going to go, that's great. There's nobody going to be checking us on that. And you see, that's why an awful lot of people as well too, and like you're saying earlier on, a lot of people misunderstand what happened on the Thursday evening, for example, with lads where they're going, no, we're tired of being pushed around and we're not being treated like this. And as you said, there could have been a couple of agent provocateurs in there. I mean, nobody knows the politics of absolutely everybody that was there on that night. And there was a couple of strange things, as you said, that had happened. And when you would go back to it, We're looking at a system that is totally in free fall because we've politicians now that are running scared, hiding replies, and are just carrying on doing what they're doing, which doesn't make any sort of logical sense at all. A media that's doing exactly the same. And you just have a runaway freight train at this stage now that looks like it's just going to come off the tracks and it's going to go into the wall, really. No?
Yeah. And I think they know now as well. And look at the attention that's gotten all over the world that they're the laughing stock of the world, not even Europe. The Irish government and the establishment are the absolute laughing stock, and yet the light is shining on them now. All their nonsense about migration, all their nonsense about indoctrinating children in schools, with libraries, and LGBT, transgenderism, and everything else, and this, critical race theory, all these nonsenses that they're putting into the society here. It's all been exposed now, and I think they are absolutely terrified now at this stage, and so they should be. But it's my good feeling is telling me that we're going to come close to something here now next year. I think without a doubt that I think something a major shift is going to happen in the next 12 months.
Oh, for sure.
It just can't continue on. Whether it's some kind of financial collapse or whatever. And again, I suppose we know as well. Well, I know anyway that the reasons the population is so dumbed down is because they don't feel it yet in their bank accounts. They don't feel that they've they've still got the best of food, and they have their Netflix and their Sky Sports and their points or whatever.
Yeah.
And it hasn't reached that point yet and it is getting tougher and tougher, by the way. I'm not saying it isn't. But you hear heartbreaking stories there. I interviewed a lad and his wife, 2 children in a 1-bed apartment in Tallaght. He's got a good job, and even if he wanted to move, he can't find a place because of the crazy policies of this country where there's too many people queuing for the same room or the same apartment, whether it's rental or even buying the place. You know what I mean, these days. So yeah, I mean, it's this disgruntlement now is grown and grown in the country. I mean, the sooner the better. Like I keep saying, let's get it over with. If people just get up, rise up, and say no more. And I mean peacefully. I don't mean and let's force these people out of the doll. Whatever, if it takes an election, well and good, but they just have to go because the damage they're doing now is becoming. Look, I'm optimistic. I think there's hope, and there's always hope, and it's like to yourself, I'm sure I can speak for you as well. I mean, we wouldn't be doing this. We're basically trying to save this country from oblivion and insanity, and it's eternal destruction, really. So it's like there has to be some kind of hope there, or we wouldn't be doing it. And and the biggest weapon is the truth, and just keep putting the truth out there. And we're blue in the face saying this, but I really believe that it will work. You know what I mean? It has to work, and we can't let this evil overrun our children, our society. And especially the children. I'm doing this for the children of this country. The adults can walk off the cliffs more if they want to kill themselves. I mean, I can't stop them from doing that. But it's the innocent kids that haven't a clue what's going on, and they rely on their parents and their guardians and whatever else, and the adults in their lives to do right by them, and keep them safe. And that's it's the very least we can do. On top of the fact that we love who we are and the country that that we all grew up in, and the ancestors that gave their blood and guts, that's in the soil in the country. So, I think everyone, we all just keep that now. And I think as well, I'm going on a bit of a rant here, but it's like I think we all need to remember that now, especially now when you see the likes of Conor McGregor and you see Elon Musk, see the work that the likes of Keith Woods is doing, and loads of other people, our brightest and our best, and that we're making so many inroads. And I think as well for all the people on our side, it's time to put aside all the petty differences as well. Have to. It's like, and don't get me wrong, I've had disagreements with people, behind the scenes or whatever, but it's like, and I see there's a certain group on our side, and I'm going to say this because it's not really, I don't like saying it because I don't generally respond to mentally ill people on our side. Unfortunately, we have a certain amount of them that do nothing but look for ways to slander people on our side, including myself, probably yourself as well. You get, making casting aspersions on people, like having a clue, basically themselves. But a lot of them are, former drug addicts. Some of them are current drug addicts. There's mental illness out there. There's paranoid schizophrenia. And it gets to be a right pain in the arse. And I'll tell you that most of these people are just on their keyboards. They've never put themselves out there in harm's way. They haven't a clue about the sacrifices that have been made behind the scenes that most of us don't talk about. And I don't like talking about them too much. Okay, I highlighted that thing with the guards in town because it was a fact. It was an attack on a journalist, which is really important. It was an attack on the people's right to know what's going on, and that's why I made an issue. It's not about the bruises and whatever else I received or whatever, but it was, that was the main reason I put that out there. If it was another journalist, they'd be doing the same thing. So saying to people, and those people who are with these problems, they have, and none of them are kind of, they're good, they mean well, and they think they mean well for the country. They're putting out these stupid posts and sharing this bullshit about people that aren't backed up with any kind of evidence or any facts. If somebody can come to me with hard evidence and verify something about anybody, on our side or their side, that might be infiltrating or doing harm to the country, I'm all ears. But 99% of the bullshit that you hear coming out from people, and on our side especially, can be very damaging. They're nearly worse than the left, in my opinion. And I'm not going to dwell on this too much, but at this point in time now, when we have the likes of McGregor, we have the likes of Elon Musk now talking about us. We have who else? Tucker Carlson even talking about us and all that. Yeah. These are really influential voices here that now they're not expected to know everything about what's going on in Ireland and down the nitty gritty, like what me and you were talking about every day. But at the same time, I just wish the people would just back off and leave and stop. Don't make it about your own little piece of gratification when you're on your keyboard and you send out a derogatory post about somebody that's there. Oh, he's a shill and he's doing this, he's doing it for that. Like as I said, anybody can come and look at my bank account, and how dare you say anything like that about me? And you don't notice, and anyone else for that matter, unless you have 100% evidence. I dare anybody to come and tell me, when I'm going around the place and the people see me in a car that's, what I mean, is nearly falling apart. It has an NCT, by the way, just to cover myself.
But they see that fantastic house behind you there, Philip, and they think to themselves, Philip's obviously a multimillionaire,
Just look at me arm disappearing. Look,
he's magic. Yeah. No, but look, I hear what you're saying on that as well too. It does make sense, and I mean, look, the one thing that you have to give the left an awful lot of times is that they're unified in complete stupidity, and you're like, wow, that's actually admirable in some terms. When you say like they will literally go to bat for each other at all times, and they will do it constantly. But I do get from our point of view that you do have people that are suspicious, and I think on this side of the fence, I think you do have a bit of a skeptical nature. I mean, look, we're skeptics as things stand. I mean, we're skeptical of narratives that come out. We're skeptical of what we're being told. And I think that that's a fair thing to say. And look, I get it from the point of view of people saying, I'm not sure about that. And I know that I probably said one or two things here that people go, I don't know about that. I'm not sure about him. And that's fine. That's absolutely cool. I don't mind that at all. But when you were talking about, say, for example, there, and I just wanted to pick up that point there, certain people then will point to Tucker Carlson and say he shouldn't be speaking on Ireland. He's from America. Steve Bannon shouldn't be speaking on Ireland. He's from America. And you're going, and I'm sitting there going, these are the same idiots that are boosting Hazel Chu, who is Chinese, to talk shit about our country. And you have the gall then to turn around and say, I have a problem with Tucker Carlson talking about our country and putting the spotlight on what is actually happening. Like, this is the idiocy that you're dealing with people as well from the left-hand side. And I put up a tweet during the week, and I said an awful lot of the left celebrating the passing of Shane McGowan and saying what a great guy he was, and saying, what a great Irish fella he was. And I said, well, that's very interesting. And to just paraphrase what I had said on Twitter, I said, Shane McGowan was born in England to Irish parents. So by that token, because these people all wanted to say that he was really Irish and stuff like that, I said, well, that's interesting, because the parents were Irish. And that means then that any foreigner that's born in Ireland to foreign parents is still a foreigner. And a lot of people were quoting it and saying this is fantastic and even replying to it. And I did get a couple of bites from people that tried to say this is ridiculous stuff. And I'd say, but it's not though. Like, this is where we're looking at things. If you value Shane McGowan as just as Irish as you are, even though he's born in England, because he has Irish parents, that means the exact same as what I'm saying. So it's very interesting to see people now, and I have to be honest with you, the tide has massively turned where I know as well that my account on Twitter for sure was shadow banned for a very long time. Now it seems to be lifting. You're the same. You're seeing the views that you're getting, which is great. And the bigger picture is this. I'm fully in support. And listen, if you're someone that's out there that wants to do YouTube or you want to do Twitter or whatever that, join it. Add your voice to the whole thing. Like this is what we're getting at from this side of the fence. Add your voice to it. Have differences. That's absolutely fine. The other side want to be just united in stupidity. So, like, which is it? What do you want to do? You know what I mean? I'd rather have someone that comes onto YouTube and says, "Oh, I don't agree with this, that, and the other," and I go, "Yeah, that's great, no problem at all." And it's going to get the backing from people because on this side of the fence, people say, "Yeah, we've had enough of this." You know, we've seen recently as well too. I don't know whether you know, but there was one person in particular that likes to criticize the government. And I had a look through this individual's Twitter feed, and it was wall to wall likes for Mick Call and Sinn Féin. And I went, "Through this person is just the same." You know what I mean? They just can't see the woods from the trees, and I think it's quite interesting how people are still lulled into this sort of football club mentality of, oh, Sinn Féin will definitely fix things. Oh, so they're just going to do a complete 180 on what they've done for the last couple of years. Is that what it is? So you've encountered a lot of politicians, and especially recently as well. And if you'd like to give it another sort of spoke to the chat or anything like that about anyone that you've encountered recently that you thought was quite an interesting encounter.
In what sense? I mean, where do we start? And by the way, I'm just looking at the chat there. Emmanuel Godson, I'm not talking about you when I'm talking about people.
Emmanuel Godson just wants to make it all about him. That's his problem,
It's not about you, Emmanuel, okay? It's all to the earth. But anyway, sorry, remind me, any recent bits and pieces that...
other than the guards, obviously,
a lot of my stuff is going up to these places in rural Ireland is fascinating. And I've been down in Inch and Clare. I came across... I've done a few interactions with Timmy Dooley, this West Clare Gambine absolute... now, he's been sent out, as far as I know, he's been sent out there deliberately, like, you know what I mean? He puts an out, sure, you know yourself. Don't worry, no, that's not because of this, or it's not because of that. I was in Ukraine, and I saw the bombs, and I saw this, and it's as if he was going around now with a flak jacket and a helmet. Like,
he looked very wide-eyed in that picture with Zelensky. To be fair to him,
Yeah, and so these rural communities that are coming out, and there was another one in Cavan, and like you go down there, and it's suddenly arrived on their doorstep, right? This reality of this complete imminent danger in their area of these individuals that bring it in, and like their gut and their heart is telling them that we have to push back and we have to stop this, and then the head is looking around them and they're hearing it, and they don't want to be classified as a racist or a bigot or whatever, and they will turn on somebody like myself or whatever, anybody at all that it's about conditions aren't suitable for them. And this kind of fascinates me, that there's a balance there between well, they know the right thing to do is to stop this, but then the other hand says, oh, God forbid if I get called a racist. And it's like it's a conflict within them, I've seen Harold Murphy posted something down in Rosslare there, where there's a 71-year-old and his wife talking about, the fact that we're not against any migrant. These migrants that have stayed here are the best, and we welcome them all. It's like we just don't want to lose the nursing home, And I think he was talking about living in Lanzarote and everything else. And it's like, hold on, no, will you just, it's not my backyard you're talking. Let's be truthful about it. You're seeing, you have a group of them there now. You're still in danger with this crowd that they brought in that you don't know anything about, and you're trying to make out now that it's not about the migrants. You know what I mean? It's about losing the nursing home. For God forbid that anybody might call them or think that they're racist, and that they might, wander away from the mainstream nonsense. And then they'll welcome, like they did in Clare, they welcomed these Irish Times reporter, your man in that scumbag that was at Parnell Square, and he got ran by people who had twigged who he was, branding women and children in prams as far right, playing just a government propaganda merchant. He was accepted down in Clare with Timmy Dooley, and I just looked at them all. I mean, I went in with the camera. I think that the internet was so bad I couldn't do live, but they were kind of they were looking at me, and I was ask me a question. Like, I'm Philip Dwyer, covering this for a long time. Does anybody want to ask me anything about what I've been doing or whatever, you know? And they treated me like I was some kind of alien that had landed down from a spaceship, you know. And then behind them, where they were sitting on the wall, there was all these Middle East and African guys walking back and forward to the different parts of the building and everything else. And I was the enemy to them. And then they had Odell, had RDE, Timmy Dooley, who were actually making this happen. You know, these are inflicting this stuff. And, you know, they're like turkeys, you know, voting for Christmas. You know what I mean? It's like the beaten wife is talking to the abusive husband. You know what I mean? That's constantly abusing her, like, you know what I mean, and beating her up. And it's just fascinating to me, that side of things. And I thought, you know, they're telling me to get out of there, whatever, and I'm like, no, I'm going to cover this. And I don't need your permission, you know, to walk out on the road and cover the story. You're out there, you're making a protest or whatever, you know, like me or loathe me. I mean, hopefully at the end of the day, when I was leaving, they went all against me. But when I was leaving, I said, hopefully someday that any of you want to contact me when you figure out what's going on with yourselves, go ahead, please contact me, and I'll chat to you and help you if I can. So yeah, it's this rural Ireland thing, this rural divide, where, and I suppose a lot of areas, it hasn't hit them as hard as it hit us in Dublin and other towns, big towns, where it's just the demographics now are going into, you know, we're been a minority. Where I am here now, and outside my mansion here, like in Tala, the population is. The population is 80-20 foreign, you know. It's just off the charts. You walk outside the door and you won't hear you know, the English language being spoken, nor the Irish language for that matter. But it's like unbelievable. And this is the dystopian hell. I was over in the square. I was out today with the great Ferg Power. I was in court today, actually, on that stupid charge, the creche charge. The creche owner who was indoctrinating her infants, kids in our creche. And Ferg was with me, and we just went for a stroll down towards the square. And we were just saying, I was just like, oh, I'll never forgive them, Ferg, for what they've done here. Like, this place is just turned into an absolute shithole, basically. Dystopian, right? These guys hanging around, Arabs, Africans, or whatever, walking around, going in and out of the post office. Nobody has a clue about what they're doing here, or where they're coming from, what the backgrounds are. And it's just so uncomfortable. It's just a horrible feeling to walk around your own area, your own place, and feeling like a foreigner. You feel like a foreigner in your own area, you know.
Yep.
So, yeah. How does it feel? How does it feel? All the rest you're getting, you're not doing all the talking on your own show.
No, like the thing is well, like, I'm very happy to have you on, Philip, and that's the thing. Like, it's interesting to hear your point of view when it comes to these things. So now as well too, like, I obviously do pretty much a monologue as well too on Thursday, Friday nights, and you know, it's great to hear somebody else and see what they're saying, because I mean, again, you're living through a lived experience here, and that's what I'm getting at as well too. Even when I talk about a Thursday, Friday night, like, it's shown that there's other people that are out there that feel this way and see things the way they are. I mean, people that are down the country don't quite see it yet. I suppose if you're in Galway City, you might start be seeing it now, because with the likes of Mohammed being the most popular boy's name, surely there's a bit of trouble on the way there, allegedly, speculatively on that one. But when you were living in Dublin as well too, like, we've seen this now, and I mean, we've seen it as well too, where there's images coming out and people are saying, look at the population, look at the area, look at the statistics of the area now, especially when it came out from the likes of the census, and you're seeing like a whopping drop in people that are Irish being in this country and this community. I know people would say and try to blame immigration and stuff like that, but look, the thing is that when it comes to what we're seeing, which is the demographics change so rapidly, like, you can't understand unless you have like a quantitative look at things and say, well, Ireland can fit into Africa, the continent of Africa, 430 times. So all of these people have been weighted in. I didn't know that Africa was in the EU. Did you know that? I didn't know that they were in there. So how are all these people coming here? How are all people coming from the far side of the world ending up here in this little country? And they're now taking over certain areas. Like, the point is, and what an awful lot of us will say, and I mean, we go to different countries as we do on holidays as well too. You go to other countries to experience culture. This is going to be a country without a culture in the next number of years. that is the idea of the politicians, in my humble opinion, and the media, and whoever's giving them their directives. Which I think it's fair to say now that Grip did an article and said that 70% of things that are told towards our own people are coming straight from the EU. So like we have a government now that are pretty much admitting that they're not even setting what's going on here in this country. They're just going, oh no, we're just listening to what they're telling us what to do. You're just basically administrators now at this stage of the game, like heavily paid, ugly administrators. That's what we have. And I think an awful lot of what we see here in this country is a litmus test as to what people will put up with. I don't think they expected people to say enough is enough so quickly here in Ireland. I don't think that they could run out of I suppose, adjectives towards people, trying to say, oh, you're far right, you're a bigot, you're this, you're that. People don't care anymore. Like the days of name calling are over. People are not worried about that anymore. They're not worried about what some idiot in a tweed jacket is saying about them on the likes of the urinal or anything like that. You don't give a shit anymore. Do you know what I'm saying? Like the point has come to the point in time now where people have just said, okay, we're just united with what's going on here, and our country is very important. GT made a great point he did probably about a year or two ago, and I was listening to the stream, and he talked about being able to walk around, and particularly a female, being able to walk around Dublin with their earphones in. And he's like, that doesn't happen anymore. That's soon coming to a day now where that won't happen anymore. And you wouldn't believe the amount of women that I talk to that say that they listen to their earphones with one earphone in. And still, there's some people out there that will say, oh, that's not because I'm worried about anybody from any other country doing that to me. I'm worried about men in general. You're feeding in and buying the narrative. Then the thing is, now are more unsafe because there's people coming in from God knows where, with God knows what sort of past into our country, and they've been set loose. It's a crazy situation, and like you said as well too, I do feel that way sometimes as well too, going around the various shopping centres where you're hearing people and you're like, that's not even a language that I understand. You're looking and you're going like, this is not right. This doesn't seem to be the way it should be. And as I said before, I've no problem with people that have total and, honourable and needed skills coming to the country once that's capped also. But you don't need 1,500 security men coming from Botswana or some other shithole. Do you know what I mean? You just don't need that. And what a lot of people misunderstand is that's actually bringing down their wage. Then if you're a security man and you're here and you're Paddy Irish, if this fella's coming in from Nigeria or if he's coming in from India, he's going to do the job he is and he'll undercut you, no problem. And it's something I've seen from Salty Cracker, for example. His wife is, I would say Latin American, I suppose. He'd say she's South American or whatever. And he said, like, he can't believe her family are the people that are most staunch about borders because they're like, we know what's coming after us. We're all right. But these guys, these rest of these guys that know what's going on over here, they're going to just come on over. And it's the same thing here. It's the same game. Like, there's nothing going on in Georgia. There's nothing going on in Albania. There's nothing going on in Lithuania. There's nothing going on in various countries across the world. But yet these people are still ending up here. It's madness.
Yeah. Look, I mean, I'm kind of like I'm on a learning curve. I'm on a journey like everybody else. I mean, some of us are further along the journey than others, or whatever. And the longer I'm going on, I just started to educate myself lately in the last few months, or whatever, about the real enemy, who the real. I'm not going to say too much on for your algorithms here, but it's like there's no point in you know what I mean, being in denial about it, and who has been writing the narrative of what's been going on over the last 100 and 150 years or whatever it may be. There's no point in being in denial about it. There's loads of questions to be asked. The same people who are in control of the narrative and the media are still in control of the narrative and the media. And you follow the money. And the people who are in control of the money are the ones, in my opinion, are the real enemy in this. And you can word it whatever way we want. Say, like, a lot of the people, for example, now who are dropping bombs on women and children in Gaza. Okay, I don't even want to take sides in that conflict or whatever. But at the same time, there's been horrendous human rights abuses on both sides, which I abhor. But at the same time, the country that has the most power, the biggest army, the biggest air force or whatever, that are indiscriminately murdering people, innocent people on the ground in Gaza. These are the people that we all have to go and do our own research about all of this. You can go back 150, 200 years, and we can go on about certain atrocities over the years. They never talk about the stuff that went on with the Bolsheviks in Russia, all the 60 million people in Russia that were killed, who were behind the Bolsheviks, all of this stuff. 60 million Russians murdered over 30 or 40 years by a certain ideology, by the communists in Russia. And who were controlling them. And then you go from the other side, who controls the money on this side. And unfortunately, it all goes down the same way. It's like not making popular with people or whatever, but at the same time, it's a matter of doing, a bit of research, and the receipts are out there, and they don't even, they're not even making it a secret, like, you know what I mean? And the work that Keith Woods did with the ADL as well, and these people that are in control of that, how that all started off. I say to everybody, do your research, check it out. Don't take my word for anything. Come back to me. All the history that's been written, it all needs to be questioned. Every single bit of it needs to be questioned, because when the opposing point of view is put out there about how all these historical events happened, the opposing point of view tends to be the more logical scenario. And again, it's follow the money. You go back to the Federal Reserve being created back in 1912 or 1913, what it was, and thing. I think it was Woodrow Wilson said it was the greatest mistake he ever made. Betrayal to his country by handing over the finances to the Federal Reserve, and the fiat currency, getting rid of the gold standard or whatever. Giving themselves the right to loan money that didn't exist to people and governments and everything else. A recipe for disaster, and we're all paying the price for it. So it is a kind of a deep rabbit hole to go into, but I'd advise anybody to just do your research and look for the alternative views on what happened in the history. Look for the people who are benefiting the most out of all this migration. The Frankfurt School, the Clergy Plan, to deracinate the West. You know what I mean? They don't want white civilized Europeans anymore. They want us gone. And I kind of say to people as well, I'm not that abreast of what's going on in other countries. people ask me that in Holland, say, for example, your man, I can't even think of his name now, got elected, this right-wing guy, Gettr, whatever his name is, Wildebeest. But it's like, I don't keep it, but my honest belief is, and I really believe this, that and why they're being so doubling down on us, the hate speech laws, and this far right narrative, the NGOs, 33,000 NGOs with $6 billion being spent on them. I really think that they're terrified that Ireland will wake up to this, will turn against this, because it'll create a domino effect, or a ripple effect around the world. And you see it there with the riots, the amount of world attention that it's got. And then you have people in other countries that are suffering the same things we're suffering. They're looking and they're saying, what's wrong now if the Irish are kicking up? There must be something seriously wrong, because we all love the Irish, and they're the most inoffensive, most compassionate and respectful people. What the hell is going on that they're having riots? So I think they are terrified of the Irish spirit. And I keep saying, if we manage to succeed, the likes of myself and everybody in the chat here, and I see most of the week, and I usually watch it on a Saturday after, the day after, whatever these days. But everybody in the chat here knows really, what I'm talking about. Like, it's something that we're capable of. If I focus on Ireland for that reason, because I really believe we can make a difference to the whole world if we can make this turn around. And if every person in their own country could stick to the same thing as well, I think that might be beneficial. But as I said, Ireland has something special about it. There's something there in the Irish psyche and the Irish spirit that terrifies them,
Oh, for sure.
Sorry,
I totally agree. I do. And I mean, what I was going to just say to you there as you were talking was that you're talking about specific people, and you're looking at it now, and you're seeing Germany now is talking about, and Sweden is talking about the partner record.
Oh, by the way, I mean, I'm sorry, just before it's not every single one of these people we're talking about. We're talking about a kind of elite. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If you look at all these companies, these tech companies, pharma companies, media companies, you name it, Hollywood or whatever, it's the same group of people that are in charge of the deep state in America. You know what I mean? Israel, the Zionist state of Israel, who are entitled to have their own country, but Ireland isn't, and they want to bring as much migration into Ireland as possible, but none into their own country. This is the kind of thing that we all need to look at. So, and again, I'm an unapologetic nationalist, Irish nationalist. I don't like them. There's only one type of nationalism. It's just nationalism. It's Irish nationalism. And either way, if you're an Irish nationalist, you're an Irish nationalist. You're not a half Irish nationalist. You're an Irish nationalist. And I think, we need to just focus on that. The cure for all of this is our national identity and our pride in our nation as well, and love of our nation. And that's the cure to it. And, to get people to wake up to that, that's the hard part. That's the job at hand that we have and that we're trying to do. And as I said, I think, to me, my belief is that we can change the world if we can change Ireland.
For sure, absolutely, and I totally agree, and I do think that a change is coming, and I think what's happening now is, even myself there, looking at the entertainment sphere and looking how things have been progressing online as well too, in particular, you're seeing a real hunger as well too amongst government officials around the world to try, and I mean, even what's her name there, Noam there in America. Is it Christy now? Kirsty now? I'm not sure. Anyway, she was talking about bringing in a bill about anti-questioning certain people, you should just say. And you're looking and you're going, well, that's an interesting thing to do all right now. You're even seeing the same thing being said as well too on our channels when they were talking about, you can't be talking about specific people. I wonder why that is. That seems like a very strange thing to say, and it also just brings more attention to it. You're seeing as well where there was recent complaints about Sweden with their proposed idea of deporting 80,000 people, and Germany, I think, were talking about doing the same, and they were saying it would cost them an awful lot of time and effort, and they said they wouldn't know how they could deport 80,000 people. And you're sitting there going, that's Germany. That's the country that was blamed on 6 million, was it not? And they're telling you that they can't get 80,000 out. That's a very strange statement to make, especially with all the stuff that they possess now. And I think that just kind of segues nicely into what I was going to talk about now, and that was the government. So Fine Gael have come out and decided to go with approving on Garda Síochána will soon be able to use facial recognition technology, FRT. Great acronym there, guys. It's FART. Well done. So you've got FART there now. Nice one. So that's very clever there, guys. To help them in their investigations. This is another way Fine Gael is building stronger, safer communities. Now, I did a video not too long ago, Philip, and, I was talking about Elon Musk and what he was doing and the record crime that we're seeing now, and specifically on the riots. It is inexplicable to think that Fine Gael can post something like that and say stronger, safer communities when that's absolute bullshit. That is complete and utter lies, that is. And facial recognition technology sounds like a great idea. Everything that these people do sounds like a good idea. And you go, that's great. That's going to catch criminals. But it's the invasiveness of what it does after the fact. Now, Philip, you've been someone that's been sounding the alarm about facial recognition technology and all these technologies. What do you think about that?
100%. I mean, all these technologies, they'll tell you, they're great, yeah, but when you put them in the hands of satanic tyrants, no, they're not great. They'll only be weaponized against you. They're only there to be weapons against you. Absolutely. And it's like giving the guard cameras and all this. God forbid they put cameras on a lot of these clowns. I mean, they'd have to answer for their actions and for their stupidity. But again, it's like everything else. Everything is leading towards this control. Your 15-minute cities. The ULEZ cameras in London and everything else. You know what I mean? It's like they I suppose they got away with so much after the woohoo flu. Like, they've gotten away with so much. They have got people basically zombified, and that they're terrified to question anything. I actually bumped into a nurse. I was having a coffee there with Fer, and the guy sat beside us, and he started chatting, and he turned out he was a nurse in there. And I won't say where, but it's like we got into a conversation anyway. He was looking the generation around him, and we can't even go for a coffee in peace or whatever. But then the conversation went down to the hospital. What's it like over there? And I said, did you have to take the jabs? I had a feeling I thought he might have been awake or whatever. Oh yeah, of course I did. And everything else, yeah, and I'm still taking them. And this is a nurse, this is a medically qualified individual. And I said, even after all the data that's come out, You're still taking them, are you? And he's like, what? You know,
What
what do
that?
you mean
Yeah.
that? If they hadn't been brought out, lots of people would have died, he was telling me. And I'm looking at him, and I can see the terror in his voice at this conversation. And it was all lovely, lovely before that. And then all of a sudden, and I said, you're getting upset now, are you? And he's like, I said, but do you not understand that we need to be able to have these conversations as adults, and, you know, for say, important things that are happening to us in the society, that if we get all hot and bothered and we can't just have a conversation, and we're in big trouble as a society, like. And he was all flittered, and he goes, no, I have to go now. I'm now here. And he just got up and he walked away. And I says, okay, have a good Christmas. Good luck.
What's interesting is people not being able to emotionally regulate themselves for those conversations. It's pretty interesting, and that's what the left do. The left, you know, screech and ree about things, and you're like, well, if you sat down and listened to what you were saying about taking a substance, you should be the very people that should be hopping up and down about criminal behavior from large companies. You're the very people that should be doing it. But you're the opposite. You're shilling for these places, and then you're saying, now listen, my opinion is this. I hope the left are on their 15th booster at this stage. I hope that they've taken 16 of the things all at once. You know, now I'm not.
And they'll breed themselves. Yeah, they'll breed themselves out of existence as well, Angel.
Yeah.
You know, that's a given too. You know,
yeah. No, I'm not.
The very way from what we're talking about, the facial recognition and all that, and like we've seen it over in China. Like, I mean, how horrific of a society will that create? I mean, you won't be, and it's like digital currency as well. Like, you know what I mean? You won't be able to, as the thing says, they won't be able to fart, and it'll be, you know what I mean? They'll know everything about you.
Yeah.
So it's like, if we give in to this, and people are saying, oh, but if you have nothing to worry about, you're not doing anything wrong, and it's like, well, who knows what's going to be wrong tomorrow? The next day, with these people, then new rules and new madness, you know what I mean? And they come knocking on your door, and some refugee centres open beside you, and your daughter gets raped, and you can't go outside your door, you know, and you won't be able to complain about it, like, you know, and with the best will in the world. So, you know, this is the effect, and the digital currency, and they switch off your bank balance or whatever, switch off your electricity next, switch off your phone or your broadband or whatever. It's 100% all about control. And it's like, I don't like going into conspiracy theories too much. You know what I mean? Nothing that anything I can't verify. I don't really like saying too much about that. But I mean, you know, the bigger picture here is that these people now that are in charge are our enemies. They're being controlled. You know, the puppet masters are controlling them, and they've been promised the sun, moon, and stars, the gravy train, and that they'll be kept on it forever. And the likes of the Murphys and the Sinn Féins and everything else, it's the demographic change that is going to suit them in the elections, where they're going to be looking at people who have been brought in here, given everything, and they're hardly going to vote against the people who brought them in and given them everything. And that's exactly, you know, and they're using this money that's magicked out of the sky, this, you know, this pretend money that's just numbers on screens on computers to pay for all of this. At the end of the day, it's our children and our grandchildren that end up footing the bill for it all, you know.
Oh yeah, for sure. And I mean, that's the thing. Like, you're gonna see, like, these people are gleefully talking about the Irish becoming a minority by 2050. You know, and you're like, what a sick type of world we live in when that's going on. I mean, you've got, even, like, say for example, and it's on a different topic, but you've got Enoch Burke sitting in jail, and people say, well, he broke a court order. Yeah, it stems from having a verbal disagreement with someone else. Meanwhile, you've got people that are attacking kids being set free. Suspended sentences. Like, you see, what people don't understand, and what we do need to understand, is that, of course, law and order has been turned off and criminals are not being punished because we have criminals running the show. Like, this is what we have here. We don't have law-abiding people running the show. Where else would you get it, where Leo Varadkar is under criminal investigation and the DPP just go, nah, we're not going to pursue that? It's ludicrous. What a clown. It was never going to happen. But I was even looking at something there during the week, Phil, and it was, and I'm probably going to do a video on it as well, where you had this woman called Marie Donnelly. Now, no surprise, as I always like to say, very unattractive woman, and she's working for a group called Penta. And these people, well, I think she was working with a group called Penta beforehand. I think that was in the bio, but she's working for one of these climate action nonsensical things. So I just had a look, and I clicked on the profiles, and I said, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to have a look through these things and see what's happening. And it emerged that she has been involved with certain people, and that's including Penta, who promote Microsoft and Cisco products. So Microsoft, as you know, is owned by Bill Gates. So, that's quite unusual. But Cisco have done an awful lot of acquisitions, and you want to see and I mean, if you don't believe me, have a look into the acquisitions that they've done. You can see them all online. They've made a number of acquisitions over the years. And when you see a company buying up other companies, they're obviously doing good things, but they create a monopoly. So where is the shares coming from mostly for Cisco? It's coming from Vanguard, BlackRock, and a place called State Street Corporation. Now, what these companies use is something called an ESG score, which bullies companies and bullies government and politicians into submitting into doing what they want them to do. And these companies, in particular, BlackRock and Vanguard, own an awful lot with what's happening, or have an awful lot of say in what's happening now at the moment. And they are pushing this ESG score. Recently, they tried to step back and say, "Oh, that's not us, guys. We don't want it to be used this way," but it is being used that way. So,
what's that stand for again? Equality and social governance or something, is it?
Yeah, and then they try to link in the environment with that then as well too. So, like as you said there, the social part of it to them is important, because what they do is they use it to diversify certain positions, which obviously means moving their people into these places and getting them to do what they want.
Was this the video released? The secret video released by James O'Keefe, the CEO?
I think he's released stuff over the last while, but I don't think specifically. Maybe he's done one on Penta before, but when I seen this woman Marie Donnelly had,
this was on Cisco. I think this was on Cisco.
It was on Cisco.
I'm wrong now about that. Someone in the chat knows this is kind of like an Indian or Pakistani CEO at a kind of a Zoom call, and he's talking about how managers have to increase their diversity levels quotas by 1% per year. So in other words, they're not to hire any white people. And they're sitting there in glee talking about this. But James O'Keefe, and he was after exposing it. We've yet to see now. It's supposed to be a criminal offence to do that in the States. Apparently, that kind of discrimination. So on the basis of race. So it'll be interesting to see how that one pans out. But as I said, these companies that it's every aspect now of our culture and our society has been let's say infected, I suppose is the word, the termites that have spread into every aspect of society, every institution, business, corporate business, arts, media, government, education, every single thing. You can't football, sport. You can't watch a soccer match and there's gobshites are getting on their knees for some fella who was, out of his head on meth or whatever in America.
So look at this December as well too. They have the armbands back again, the rainbow ones, and it's just like
I've seen the
what's the story with this? Like again, it's happening, but a lot of people are switching off. Like it's like myself, like I'd be a fan of football and stuff like that, but I don't care about it the way you used to, because I'm just like, look at these virtue signaling Egypts, and then you see your man down from Sheffield Wednesday. Was it Sheffield Wednesday? Sheffield United, Muslim player, and he's not wearing it, and then the media are like, oh, did we draw attention to this? Or do we leave it? And you can see them, like, they're not even sure what to do, because, like you said, they're all about this diversity and inclusion. So if they do then start to highlight that, then you're going to have those guys pretty upset, and they're not going to take well to that at all.
And how are those clash of cultures going? How's all that going to pan out now?
Well, did you not hear? Did you not hear that Ireland against fascism, or fascism against Ireland, as you like to call them? We're saying that putting multicultural people into a hotel was always going to result in problems.
Yeah,
what an absolute paper.
It's how low can the stupidity go? It's fascinating. I mean, I love kind of psychology. People, like watching people behavior and things like that, and finding out what makes people click and tick or whatever you want to call it. And it's fascinating the level of cognitive dissonance and everything else, that the detachment that people have that you would have previously regarded as very, very intelligent and high IQs, that this thing where they just the point where everything disappears when they're going down a certain road or a certain topic, that it's they switch off. Like, I mean, they can't continue on. Like, they have to look away, walk away, or whatever it is, call you a name or insult you or whatever. And the psychology of that is fascinating for me. And it's like, but at the same time, I mean, they're easy to debate in there. You know what I mean? They're easy to debunk when you meet them face to face out in the street. But But where is it going to take us? It has to take us to like peak. I call it probably peak liberalism, peak insanity, peak degeneracy. And it was maybe like the Weimar Republic in Germany back then, when there was so much degeneracy going on in Germany that the society and whatever, the man himself, they call him AH, let's say that and the people, they just stood up and said, no, we're going to stop this. And I think it's getting that way here. You know what I mean? And the result of this peak degeneracy, or this peak insanity, this zombified state that we're living in, is that there's going to be types of Ashling Murphy beheadings in Sligo, the stabbings in Parnell Street of children, the rapes and assaults on a constant basis going on. It's going to reach boiling point. It's going to reach a tipping point, as far as I hope that. I have a feeling it's going to come sooner. Maybe I just wanted to come sooner, but I really do think it is coming quite soon now. That the average person now is so sick and tired of it.
Yeah, no, we do. We have a lot of people now that have just become fed up totally with what's happening, and you can see that really bubbling. I think now at this stage of the game, you see people now that are just having enough, as we've been talking about throughout this. I saw that video earlier on there where there was supposedly a video that came up from out north where the fella, you've seen that video, your man in the grey North Face hoodie. I'm sure you've seen that one there with the yellow wedges in behind him, where he was at.
Yeah, I was hoping you wouldn't bring that one up, but I did see it, and it absolutely made me feel sick to me stomach. That this is what we're bringing in. Yeah. Sorry, I interrupted you there. Sorry.
No, panic at all. I was actually kind of asking you what you thought now and there, but I'm sure you've seen that video. And I mean, these are the type of people you're bringing in. Then you've got your man then that was smiling outside the shop here in Dublin city centre, and he was actually then let out. Then he's walking around now. Just moving on as well too, Philip, and we're talking about just the colleges, because what I wanted to talk about as well is you were saying about psychology, and you were talking about that, and Jordan Peterson as well too has been someone that has talked about leftism infiltrating colleges. And I was sitting watching YouTube the other day, and next of all I got an advert. Say it again. I
said the lefties infiltrated Peter Jordan Peterson as well.
Oh man, yeah. Listen, he's a lost cause now as things stand. But look, we'll see what happens anyway. The Jones fella's back on.
But he comes out with the odd words of wisdom. I'm like, go on, sorry, I interrupted.
Yeah, you have to be honest with you. I have to be honest with you. I think he says good things and all that, but now that you can see that he's owned, you're like, everyone has a price, don't they? You know what I mean? I suppose that's kind of the way you gotta look at it. But anyway, what I was moving on to there was UCD. So what had happened was I was watching YouTube, and next of all there was an advert on UCD, or from UCD, I should say, and they were promoting an MA, a Master's in Gender Studies. Now, brilliant. I have to be honest with you. This video is up on YouTube, and a couple of people were writing in underneath it. Someone has written in underneath it. I'm going to check it now. 1.9k followers UCD have on YouTube, 7.9 views. 0 likes, and it was uploaded 6 months ago. And within the video, I would ask for people after this stream to view the video, just because out of interest to see what's happening in colleges here in Ireland, because this is just something that you think is in America. It's happening here. What you had in the video is you have one woman that looks for the boards, in my humble opinion, and she talks about the dominant kind of white feminism. So ludicrous stuff here. You've got an individual that's presenting it that seems quite strange also, and then there's an overweight African woman who says, and I'm not joking, in the video she says she wants to be part of an NGO. I nearly fell off the chair laughing, Philip, because I was just like, I cannot believe how overt they're doing things now, how in your face they're doing things now. Like, covertly they used to do it beforehand, but not anymore. It's so in your face now, it's outrageous. And then they wonder why people are upset.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me started on colleges. As I said earlier, I'm trying to do interviews. Something's gone wrong with my mic since that night on the Thursday night. I think it got smacked. I think that it's just not working. The connection to the phone is gone. So unfortunately, I did interviews today, and most of them you can't hear. Like this, the sound is terrible. But I ended up speaking to 2 college students, IT Tala, and asked them about their thoughts on Ireland. And I got into the conversation about, do you think a foreign person coming over to Ireland should be entitled to a house before the Irish, an Irish person? I looked with horror, and I go, of course, yes. Of course, they said. And I'm looking at, and I'm saying, are you serious? You really think that a person coming over? Yeah, I mean, it's selfish. It'd be selfish not to. Right? This young girl said, and I'm thinking to myself, where is she getting these notions from? And where did she get this thing that she has to lie down and sacrifice herself on the altar of multiculturalism to give everything over in our country at her expense? Because these are the young people. I said, well, will you have to, get married and buy a house and have a family when you get older? And it was like, yeah, of course, yeah. And how do you kind of see that happening if they're going to be bringing in people from all over the world and giving them all housing, free housing, and supply and demand and the price of housing? How do you? And look at the confusion, and then the discomfort was coming in. And it became clear that these kids were being so indoctrinated and lied to about reality, and how basic the basic fundamentals of life actually work. About finding a place to live, having children, and the fact that there isn't an infinite amount of facilities and services for people that are coming into the country, and they couldn't get. It was all about emotion and feelings. So at the end of the interview, anyway, I kind of and it just dawned on me, I better ask what these are actually studying. I didn't think it was like computer science or anything like that. And they said to me, media studies. And that just explained that they're going into these media studies, college courses, and they're just being overrun let's say cultural Marxists and professors or lecturers or whatever else, and when you see it close up and it's actually real, it's actually quite sad, that they're vulnerable, like they're impressionable young people that will trust the people who are in charge in these responsible jobs in colleges and universities, and they will put their trust in them, and then when it comes back, when they get a few years older, the reality is that they have no proper job, they're not earning a proper living, they have no prospects of getting their own place to live in, and it'll be the psychological barrier then of having to admit that they were conned and that they were lied to and that they fell for it, like they fell for the trick, and I felt sad for them in a way, and that they rambled off into oblivion, like back down to the college to their next class,
yeah, it's crazy to see that like sort of stuff, and especially like as you're saying, when you go to UCD and you see them talk the way they do, and you're looking at it and you're saying to yourself, did these people actually think that this is serious, like gender studies? You know what I mean? And you're saying to yourself, there's only two genders here, lads. I don't know what you're studying, and I mean, it's an open and closed case within 15 minutes. I don't even think it should be 15 minutes, 10 seconds.
It brings me back to the time when myself and John went to the Department of Biomedicine there out in Pearse Street in Trinity College there. Big fancy entrance to the building, and then have all the the LGBT pedophile flags like coming down over each balcony up, and we stopped and I said, let's see, can we talk to a few maybe professors or students or whatever. And the first person, now sadly again, folks, the mic it didn't work for me, balls up. And I got to speak to a girl, and she was a PhD student. I think she was American or Canadian, right? And she was a PhD student in biomedicine, right? If these people can't tell you what a man or a woman, or the difference between a man and a woman biologically, and can a man be a woman? And I asked her eventually the question, and the stuff she came out with as a PhD biomedicine student was just off the charts crazy. And I'm thinking, this can't be real. And it was like, can a man change into a woman? And she told me they could. And I said to me, how was that? And she said, they can have surgery. I said, what do you mean? Somebody cuts off their penis or a chunk of their arm. Some woman takes a chunk of their arm and puts it down between and sews it on between her legs. Are you telling me as a biomedical student that can happen? That can change a person from a man into a woman? And she goes, yeah. And I'm like, what are they teaching these people? And then I got a guy on video. It was the next day, I think, and he came out and I asked him, can a boy turn into a girl? And he kind of ran wild. It was like, he's out. He's gone down the road. He was an assistant professor of biomedicine in Trinity College. And that was the most basic biological question you could ask him. And he ran a mile because he didn't want to have to say no, because he probably lose his job if he said that, What are these flags? What are you trying to do here? Like, I mean, what's the purpose of this? To mainstream all of this nonsense? again, confuse young people and just keep them, make them into activists, social justice warriors or whatever, first and foremost. And like, you would think that the STEM subjects would be left, like, would be kind of safe, you know, the science and technology subjects, like, you'd think they'd be safe because they're all based on physics and reality, like, and you know, like the, you know, water is water, and you know, like, sodium is sodium, and that, like, but it's all being infected, and the indoctrination is going in everywhere, you know.
I think that's a sad point as well too that you're making, where a guy is running off as well too, rather than, and you know, a lot of it's got to do with this self-censorship as well, where people, I think that's a large part of the problem. I'm not someone that self-censors at all, really. You know, I'd sugarcoat something for someone when I know that they're not kind of up to speed with what's going on, and I'll say things in a specific way, and I'll kind of tease it out with some people sometimes, and I'd say, right, well, I know what way to. I've had so many conversations that have gone well, and I've had other conversations that have gone badly, that I know kind of how to handle certain people when they're not awake to what's going on. But the idea of self-censorship to me is crazy. I'm not someone that does that now myself, but I see people all of the time, and I chat to them, and you know, they're even at it, and I'm going like, what are you doing? Like, why won't you say a specific word? You're in the confines of your own home here, and you won't say a word that you think might be deemed offensive by someone who isn't even here. Do you know what I mean? And and I'm not talking about anything like hugely negative or anything like that, but I'm looking at it and I'm going, like, this is mad that you're not even entertaining the idea. Like, you know, I was having a conversation. I said it last week. I was having a conversation with someone, and someone was talking to me about someone potentially, allegedly, speculatively being on day release and causing a bit of mischief and stuff like that. And I was saying, well, here's the thing. Isn't it interesting that you were talking about that person being on day release and causing a bit of mischief, allegedly, speculatively? I was like, but there's a guy sitting in the jail there in Mountjoy that has literally just spoken words that people have disagreed with and shown up to the place that he was supposedly employed by, and he's holding their ethos to account, and yet they're not supporting him whatsoever. And this person, and I'm not joking with you, I thought that it would have been a rational way to even say things, but I had to dumb it down for this person. This person flew off the handle. And we were like, well, of course he should be in jail. He shouldn't have been doing what he was doing. And I said, but hang on here for a second. And I used the Satirical Soldier's old, you know, quote here. You were upset about noises coming out of a fella's face. Like, this is legitimately what you were upset about. Yet the fella that's on a day release, allegedly speculatively causing mischief, you'd no issue with that. You're like, oh, you know. And I just said, like, this is crazy. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Okay, words are violence in their eyes. Yeah. I mean, even today, like, the amount of people I spoke to today around Tala there, and it's at the back of the police station, actually, you know. But you thought about the self-censorship, like practically every single one of them, like the ones that spoke to me, were still censoring themselves. They were still so cautious about how they worded their statements, even though, like, a lot of them were agreeing that what's happening in Ireland is wrong. And this thing, like, of trying to be saying it diplomatically or whatever, like, you know what I mean, and not to be seen to be critical of the government, because they know of the concept, they know of the cancel. It's so conscious in them now at this stage, it's ingrained into society that you speak out against a narrative or possibly say something against migration, that you're anti-migrant now. You're not anti-mass migration, you're anti-migrant. And it's so damaging. I mean, like, practically every single person was watching I interviewed today an African lad, and he was in the college there in IT Tala, and he was actually a nice lad to talk to. And I wanted to ask what he thought what was going on, and he mentioned the riots and everything else. I mean, he had a fairly okay take on it, and I was asking him bits and pieces, and then after a bit, I said to him, and we got this in the media. I said, Irish people, we've been told that we're a racist country. I said, do you think Ireland is a racist country? Like, have you ever suffered from racism or been? And he said, no, I've never had any issues with any racism in Ireland. He says, do you wonder why? Do you wonder why that we've been? But even when he was talking about it, he was kind of afraid, and he was afraid to talk about riots too much. He was half covering his mouth, you know, and it was actually refreshing to hear an African lad. Now, he was born here, his parents are Nigerian, and he said he never encountered racism in Ireland himself. So this is the horrible, terrible country we live in, this intolerant, racist country we live in, that Helen McEntee keeps telling us has to bring in these laws out. It's absolutely farcical. And then I got to the point where, can you name me a country that's? I said I think Ireland's least racist country. Do you think? Could you name me a country that's less racist than Ireland? You know? And he tried to think about it, and then he came out with Australia. Because you haven't met too many Australians. No, Australians. But it's like, no, I wouldn't say Australia now is less racist. But I can't think of another country that does so much for non-Irish people in the world as Ireland. It's just, it's the most, we're so opposite to racism, like are being racist, and it's unbelievable. And yet our media are trying to tell us that it's out there in the far right, blah 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 bullshit. The far right thing that they can't even define. A minister for justice wants to lock us up for being far right, but she doesn't even know what it is.
But that's it. So. I think that was more even telling as well too, Philip, that Helen McEntee was out there saying those things where she can't define far right, and you're going, that is a sweeping statement that you're making about people, and now you can't even define it. And I'm sure there's probably people in her ear saying to make it as kind of loosey-goosey as it is, allegedly, spectively, we go on that one. But the thing is, you're looking at these things being said about people, and it is to try and create a boogeyman. And when they say, when you see all these anti-racism campaigns and all that, like, I just laugh at them now, because I'm like, well, when Wilfred Zaha, who was a black man, said he wasn't kneeling anymore for BLM, they absolutely went after him. And you're like, hang on here for a second. This campaign that's supposed to be anti-racism is actually directly attacking a black man now. Like, that's what they're doing. They're actually going after him. Everybody's opinion. No, they didn't give a shit about his opinion, and then now he's been shipped out to Turkey to play for Galatasaray. So you're looking at that, and then you see in the last week then as well too, people asked me in the stream last week, had I seen Joey Barton's comments, and I hadn't at the time, but I've since seen them, and he's talking about men being commentators in the men's game of football, and I'm going, yeah, I'm all about that. And then he's saying women shouldn't be commentating it because they don't know and understand it. And whilst I would say I don't have a particular issue with a woman presenting the show, I do agree with him on the terms of commentating and certainly punditry, because these people that are sitting there have no clue about what it's about. And I think that's the same to be said for an awful lot of politicians here in this country. I think not an awful lot of them understand what it's like to be an average Joe. They don't get it. They're totally living in a total different bubble and world than we are. They're not dealing with any of this sort of stuff in their communities. And I think that the way things need to be going forward is that people rise in their own communities, gain notoriety, and then be elected. Because I think that at the moment they're trying to tar people with a brush of far right racist and all that. And I think people are starting to see through those names, and they're going, what's this guy even saying? What's this guy Dwyer saying? And then they look at it and they go, he's actually just saying nothing that's any different than how I think. Do you know what I mean? And I think now that they've lost the narrative big time, and I think we're seeing a wounded animal. And the thing is, these people haven't been like this before. And that's why I think you're seeing so many sweeping laws and ideas and generalizations towards people, because if they decide to call someone far right and make a hate crime or something like that, sure, they could lift people out of homes. They wanted to do that over the sniffles. But they wanted you out of your home. They wanted you lifted out of your gaff on the suspicion that you had the fucking flu. Like, people forget this. And then they're like, they wouldn't do that.
Yeah, I used to think, that the guards, even like a year ago, maybe 2 years ago, there's no way a guard is going to get out, jump into a car in a patrol car out of a station and be told to come up and arrest Phil Dwyer because he said something that the Minister for Justice didn't like about migration. And they're going to come and break down my door and arrest me and put me in a cell, handcuff me, put me in a cell, and lock me up for something I said. And I used to think the guards wouldn't do that. That'd be the breaking point for them. That'd be the thing. They'd say, no, that'll be the straw that breaks the camel's back. I'm not doing that. That's the thing. And I thought they would. Now I don't think that way at all. I think they will do it.
No.
And sadly, and it breaks me heart, but I certainly think that they will follow orders like that. And let's see where it takes us. I think it could be for society, could be the one that the straw that breaks the camel's back. I hope it does, because I can look at the chat there. Whoever, all these great people in the chat, it's like none of them are going to change what they say or be afraid to speak their minds. When it comes to what's happened to their country. So I mean, there's not going to be enough prison places,
Yeah,
It's not
That's the thing.
feasible.
No, that's the thing. And it's not feasible or isn't. And I think even like that, where we're talking about the hate speech stuff and stuff like that. And I do think, in one respect, I think it's important to highlight it. But in another respect, I'm saying to myself, like, could this possibly be a distraction technique in itself? I mean, they're handing things away. I mean, they're talking about, and you have to look at the language, slowing down immigration into Ireland. That's not the word stopping. It's the word slowing down. It just means that, okay, guys, you've noticed now that there's 100,000 people coming into the place. We're gonna just do it slower to you, and that's all. This is a game to these people, and an awful lot of people in the commentary sphere think that a lot of these politicians have been given. I'll talk about something actually funny enough. When we're talking about politicians being given stuff and how easily things are, Nigel Farage, right, who was on I'm a Celebrity this year, was interesting to hear about his opinion when he was part of the European representatives. He talked about getting €300 a day to just spend on whatever he wanted. Now, he also then said in the same show that he was fed and watered in Europe. So that €300 could be spent on anything, or you might not spend it at all and just hang on to it. €300 a day. Then he's talking about all of the other things that you will get. He was talking about women throwing themselves at him and others that were there, of course, as well. Like, the lives that these people live are completely disjointed from what we live. And then you see so many of our people then chomping at the bit to get over into Europe. You're seeing Pascal Donahue at the minute is chomping at the bit. He's saying things that people are like, well, I agree with him on that. But the point is, he still fucked you over the last few years. Do you know what I mean? Like, people want to forget those type of things. But I thought it was a fascinating thing that Farage talked about, that I was saying, well, that's not only him that's availing those things. There's so many of them that are availing that. And of course, they're doing that. And they're doing that at the behest of these people. So they're pretty much owned then. Oh, do you want me to do that bit of legislation? Yeah, no problem. We'll get that through. And this is what's going on.
Yeah. Oh yeah, get watered, then watery all about mass migration and all this, and Islam, and all the Muslims coming into the country. Like, oh yeah, we need all these good people, and Muslims. There's nothing. Islam is the religion of peace that is only short of coming out of his mouth. So yeah, it's amazing how people are bought, basically, probably, and he's a Zionist as well, I think. Is he? He's all Israel, all about Israel, is he?
Who is this?
Farage. I don't know too much about it.
Well, a lot of people in that sphere seem to be like, you see the guy that's been elected in Argentina, and people went, way, and then they seen him waving a certain flag around, and you're like, that's not even the Argentinian flag, dude. Like, and that's on the day, and the same with the Dutch lad as well too. So to me as well too, an awful lot of it comes to like, was it two cheeks of the same arse, really. You see the Daily Wire, and I'm like, well, we all know who's running that ship there as well too, and it's just, we've one narrative and then we've another. But going on what I was saying there, you've got so many people now that are wise enough to it, and I think even those comments for Raj, they went very under the radar. But to me, like, my ears perked up when I heard that. I was like, oh, that's interesting. He's telling you what these people stand to gain from that, and it's something that is, you would say, €300 a day. When you add that up over time, that's a lot of money to be just hanging around.
Yeah, you don't want to lose that. Yeah, you don't want to lose the benefits as well. But I mean, isn't it great? I mean, the ADL campaign with Keith Woods on Twitter and Musk on board and everything else, it just opened up the conversation and made people being able to, you have to be able to criticize all religions and cultures and everything else. You know what I mean? But for some reason, this certain sect of people with the small hats, you can't say anything bad about them, and it is amazing. And I think they're shown as well what the true colors in Israel in the Gaza thing, where they're blowing up hospitals and civilians and women and children being killed. It is starting a new discussion that everyone has to, we have to look into this and figure it out. You know what I mean? Because, and I certainly believe as well, anybody who claims to be a part of our side in the know, in the public sphere, or everything else, that hasn't copped on to this thing with the certain group of people that are in charge of most big corporations, that charge the money, that they can't see that is a problem, and we have to talk about it. It's a problem, and we have to question it. It's in my nature to question these things, and I'm learning more and more. I'm not an expert on it. People go on and listen to go on to Keith Woods on Telegram and on Twitter. He'll educate you a lot more. But it's we have to understand the problems as well. And I suppose, Farage, again, it just shows you how powerful the lobby is. How we can get people.
Oh, for sure. And I mean, it's like even like, I pointed out beforehand because I will, and then you got Joe Biden, fucking hell, just be running around telling people he's Irish, and I'm like, bollocks, that doesn't look good for Irish people here now at all. The corruption and stuff that's going on there. And then you've got then like Mike Ryan, then that was at the WHO, and I'm like, that's another fucking Irish fella now as well too. And like you have to
Yeah.
at times just point the finger and go, yeah, no, that's definitely getting it's definitely getting us a bad name here, guys. You know what I mean? And I mean, it's amazing that nobody else seems to do that then when it's one of their own. They're not going, hang on here. How come these guys have so much power in these groups that are own in places through ESG scores? In fairness to the likes of the PBD podcast, they talk about it like all of the time. And they pointed out, and even one of the fellas that's on the panel is actually of the tribe himself, But it's quite interesting, I have to say. And look, I think, we're coming to a point in time where people are realizing an awful lot of what's going on around them. They're seeing what's and how it's being manipulated and who's manipulating it. And still, you still have shadowy governments and shadowy groups and stuff like that. That's always going to exist. And I think now we're coming to a point in time now in Ireland where a lot of it's been revealed. We're seeing who's working with who. Like I said earlier on there, you've got someone talking about charging hundreds of euros for you to be able to use parking spaces because of the fucking climate nonsense. And then you're going, well, who are you tied to? And you look and you see, oh, you're tied to a group then that's tied to Microsoft, and you're also tied then to these three super companies that buy up everybody and own people through ESG. Oh, I see what's going on here.
I'll tell you a funny one there, and you just come to me mind. You mentioned the climate change there. Myself and another, it was the day after the riots. I went into Star Street to make a criminal complaint against the guy with the inspector who attacked me. But we were coming out down around up towards past Bussard there at the curve under the bridge, and the next thing we see a group of Belvedere students, young students, maybe about 14, 15, in their black uniforms, they're kind of very recognizable, But lo and behold, who was there looking after them? Only the school teacher, the science teacher who was outside the Dáil the day I got arrested by the red-bearded Brian Roach. He did me he tried to charge me with public order. Anyway, it was dismissed in court. But this science teacher, so I couldn't resist. I didn't get the camera on or anything. I couldn't resist, and I went. There was about 20 of them walking past, and I went, "Hey lads!" I shouted, "Lads, come here! That climate change is nonsense. See that teacher of yours there? He's telling you lies about it. Don't believe a word. Do your own research." I said to the team, I shouted over them, "How many parts per million of carbon is there in the atmosphere? Is it 400?" I said, and he goes, 418. 418. You're not in danger, lads. That's too little even. There should be more carbon in the atmosphere. But don't believe him. Do your own research. He's telling you lies about this carbon. You're not in danger. Everything's all right. I'm not joking. And then two of the lads were looking at me, and I could tell. And one of the kids, just one of them said, No, you're wrong. That's such and such and such and such. And two of the lads turned around and says, "Shut your mouth, Murphy."
But this is the thing, so, you've got people waking up to that stuff as well. I mean, where would you get it where Eamon Ryan is flying across the places and they're going, "We're talking about the climate," and you're going, "But you're flying to places, you absolute dipstick of a human."
You don't need you don't need a PhD in climatology to know that it's utter nonsense, and a small bit of research and in the prehistoric times, they can search back to the prehistoric times where there was over 1,000 parts per million of carbon in the atmosphere, and plant life was thriving. We've only got 400 parts per million, and we need more. I mean, if it goes below, I think if it goes below 300 or something parts per million, we're all going to die. To produce carbon in the atmosphere is not going to help us at all, and none of this climate stuff is man-made, and it's 99.9% the sun. But it's all to do with terrifying the kids, fear porn for the kids. What I mean? It keeps them frightened. If you go around now, you get a diesel car when you get older and get a job and everything else, and you're going to burn turf and all this madness, you're going to destroy the planet. It's all the psychological warfare. So the climate. Don't get me started. Jeez.
The climate stuff now, just it gets to it. I'm just clicking on the UCD video people were showing as well too. That there's already comments on it. People lashing them out. But my comments are getting 2 likes. That's one more like than what UCD have anyway. But someone just sent me that there. But you're getting it down.
You get more views. You get more views than they do on a video in 6 hours than they do in 6 months.
Do you know, it's actually crazy to witness that as well too, Philip. Like I've said it much on streams beforehand. I've been like, I can't understand how I'm getting more likes and views than these people and stuff like that, and yet the number still stays the same in terms of subscribers. Now I know what's going on there. I know what's happening there. You know, I get that. But when it comes to these things, I'm like, isn't it bizarre that like I'll get more likes than a whole political party like Sinn Féin? And it's just why I say that. The reason why I say that, it's not to be narcissistic or egotistical, but it's to show people and tell people, look at how powerful you are and how powerless these parties are. Because, yeah, sure, there's people that are out there that buy into what they're doing, but I don't think it's as many as they say. I mean, I don't know anybody in the last, 3 years, I have not met one person that has said that they vote for the Green Party. Not one.
No.
Not one person. It's amazing.
No.
And I have to be honest with you. You know, even when it comes to this crime and stuff, when you talk to people about it, you're like, I know. And a lot of people right now are like, it's spoof, because they know, and they can see the writing on the wall where they're going, hang on, I'm going to be charged congestion charges for going into town like they do in London. Hang on there for a second, I'm being charged for parking because some goofball sitting out somewhere that's on hundreds of thousands is telling me that I need to pay hundreds of euros to be having a parking space. Like, it's absolute absurd clown world stuff. But I was just, before we jump off it, because I'm just conscious of time as well too, and we'll wrap up fairly soon. I did a poll on Twitter, and I just wanted to go with this one just to let people know what the crack was. I put up a poll on the 12th of December. I left it, I think, for about 2 days. So what I said was, would you rather be far right or far left? And a whopping 98% said they would rather be far right than far left. So I think the far right. I'm not saying I'm far right. All I'm saying is we've been right so far. Is all I'm saying.
Absolutely.
I think that's the thing. And look, 98% is a whopping number. Now, I'll be honest with you. I'm not like the mainstream media. I'll tell you how many people voted on that. 250 people voted on it, which isn't bad. That's not a bad amount of people. But still, you're seeing these mainstream media outlets that are telling you that people don't support this, that, and the other, when it's going to absolutely 100% work in their interest. And when they tell you then that people do support stuff, again, it's going to work in their interest, but it's not going to work in yours. They seem to hide those numbers and figures. They just tell you, 60 odd percent where they voted for this, and you're going, well, I don't think that's the case. I've done a lot of polls as well too under each mainstream media outlet and said, would you vote for Conor McGregor as president? And they have all come back with a whopping high percentage, even though these mainstream articles are saying people don't support this. I'm like, yeah, right. So we're coming to the point in time, I think, where these people are losing. They know they're losing. They're threatening to leave Twitter, which is great. I hope they do. I think it'd be fantastic. Off you pop and off you go to Mastodon, guys. Mastodon has had an awful lot of problems with, shall we say, people that have been, Jimmy Saviles of the world, we shall say. I like to hang around that place. So we all know about that. But before we jump off, Philip, what I want you to do, if you would oblige me here, is let people know about the Telegram channel, your Twitter, your Rumble as well too. I'd really appreciate that, because those people can find you, because I'm always asked, how can we get Philip's content? How can we see it?
Yeah, my main platform now is Twitter, because don't get me. I used to hate Twitter. I just hate it less now, but it's like it's the real platform now for reasonable free speech. I'm not perfect. Don't get me wrong. I know Elon Musk and all this. I'm not. There's questions there as well to be at, but I can go out there and live stream on Twitter now. It's the only platform that can take the phone and stick it on and have in a kind of an unlimited amount of time to stream. And it's relatively free speech. It's probably the best that we have out there. It's the best weapon at our disposal, really, right now, as far as I'm concerned, in my opinion. YouTube, this channel here, everyone knows the censorious nature of this channel. And I'm on Rumble. It's at Philip Dwyer on Rumble, and Telegram at Philip Dwyer _ Men of Ireland as well. You'll get me. Just whatever, Google my name, I suppose, and then I can. I usually put links up on my Telegram to Rumble as well. I'm not great on Rumble yet. I suppose I see other people now talking about it, and it's supposed to be the future. But I think Musk is talking about making making Twitter a more accessible platform as well, making things easier for people to get out there and make content as well. So I'm looking forward to him, and I'm looking forward to him not suspending me off as well for saying the wrong thing. But as I said, nobody wants that. Like, we don't have to. I don't have to do this. I mean, I'd rather be out, as I said, socialising, going playing golf with a few of my mates or whatever else, chilling. I don't have to do it. And I get people, and they say to me, at the end of the day, "Oh, Phil, I don't know how you do. I don't know where you get the courage, and to go off and do." And I'm like, "What? The courage for fucking what?" The courage was had in 1916 in the GPO when they're firing bombs and cannons at you and artillery at you, and the place blowing up around you, and you're going to get shot in the head the next second. We're getting what called a name. I mean, it's not courage. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, it's duty, Ninja. It's duty. We all have a duty to do this, as far as I'm concerned. These people that are around, look at them. They're useless waste of space, these lefties. A good dinner would kill half of them, So, yeah, I don't call it courage. It's fucking duty, as far as I'm concerned. So.
I fully agree with you, and that's the thing. Like, I do these shows, and I think it's very cathartic as well too, where you're able to talk about things as they are and say, "Look, I'm not happy with this, that, and the other." And of course, you get a couple of goofballs and stuff like that come in here, but I have to say the chat is overall always overwhelmingly supportive, and I have to say, like, that's obviously very reassuring as well too, in one respect, where you're going, well, that's great that there's obviously a lot of people here that support it and think it's a good idea and agree and stuff like that. But also shows then as well too the minority that the left are, that they really are, which is like you've got a lot of people that are on our side of the fence now that have woken up. They're not afraid of these people anymore. They're not afraid of the name calling anymore. And we've started to see that these people are basically like Pennywise from It. When you just laugh at them, mock them, and then point their own logic back at them, they can't come back with anything towards you. And I think that that's a fantastic thing. And I think we're in the ascendancy on this side of the fence now. I think people, as I keep saying, and I'll reiterate, I think people have woken up to what's going on. I think it has gotten to a point in time where people did look away from what was going on. They were looking away from the crash, but now people are fully looking towards the crash now. And I think it's a healthy thing that people are looking and seeing what's going on, and they're getting active. And the thing I keep saying, and I'll always say, you need to be running elections in your local areas. That's what you need to be doing. Your council positions, your TD positions, any sort of position that's possible. Take that seat democratically and get out there and do that. And Philip is one person that I sincerely hope runs in the next election. I'm not sure, and I'm not going to ask him here on stream or anything like that, but I'm not sure what position he's in. But he is someone that I would like to see in the Dáil. I would rather have Philip Dwyer in there than Paul Murphy. That's the way I feel about things, and that's the way I think an awful lot of other people should feel. And I know people feel this way. Oh, well, I don't know how this is going to shake out. Do you want to see Paul Murphy in the Dáil again? Do you want to see Leo Varadkar in the Dáil again? Do you want to see these career politicians that have done nothing for our country be in the Dáil again? Or would you rather give someone a chance that hasn't been there before? Again, I don't know if you're running Philip or anything like that, but I would sincerely hope that people would vote for like-minded folks, and that's what they would do.
Mm-hmm. Well, look, I haven't made my mind up either way, so yet, and there'll be a bit of time yet to make a decision on that. But as I said, I think you're right, and we have to give a political solution a go. And the thoughts of anything else is terrifying. So yeah, I mean, we just can't. We have to exhaust all our options anyway. So, and again, it's the people here in the chat. I just want to, if you don't mind, I'll say hello to a few people because
of course,
a lot of them in here, I know there's Leanne Curtis and Nunes Flower, Jonathan Stonefeld, Air Force. Fair play to the people who tune into this show every week and kind of see the same faces, the same names and that. And they're all doing their own thing in their own way as well. And, don't be afraid to step it up. Don't be afraid to take that camera out when you see the absurdities and you see the madness and you see the injustice going on. Get the camera out, film it, and, if you get the courage to say something and make it in commentary on what you're seeing or question somebody that's doing something wrong or that's a politician, an elected representative or whatever, even a guard who's doing something wrong, don't be afraid to just stay civilized and stay calm. Don't lose your rag, and that's really important. As I said, it's really important now as well that we're getting into the mainstream. We're getting into the ordinary Joe Soap, starting to see and watch what we're doing. It's really important to try and stay calm and collected I know people say it's not, it isn't, maybe it isn't easy. Maybe I'm good at it or whatever, but it's like, we have to portray ourselves now to be the rational ones, the reasonable ones, the ones that aren't afraid to speak up and use their free speech and use their intelligence, and use it in the right way, and don't focus your energy on trying to badmouth someone that might have said one or two words, that you got wrong. I bet, you're out in a volatile situation. I'm not going to say the right thing every time. Ninja is here every night, and he's going through all his content and everything else. He's going to make an odd mistake as well, and you get these people trying to jump down your throat and point a finger at, oh, look what he said, look what he did, or whatever. Try and get rid of all of that. Focus on the big picture. Focus on what's important. We're all here to try and get Ireland back, Ninja. That's what we're trying to do. Get Ireland back to being Ireland.
Fully agree. Before we just tune out, we will, Philip. I just want to give a shout out there to all the chat as well too. We've had a lot of chat in here tonight. We've had Fergan here. We've had Era Only, B1014. We've had Leanne, as you said. We've had Emmanuel Godson. We've got Sean Mack in here as well too. We've got Era O'Callaghan as well too. That says, well done, guys. You're true patriots, and I'm proud supporter of both of you. Thanks very much. You've got the Westman as well too in here. A lot of people came this way as well too after the shout out from Reverend Simon Sideways that you did on his live stream as well too, so I appreciate that. There's a lot of people that popped in from there. We've had a steady 300 odd here tonight now, which is crazy. I don't know if we'll go with the King Leonidas. I think maybe next week I'll be like, there was 300 in here last week, lads. We'll do some King Leonidas quotes maybe next week.
So Ferg is going to bed. Seen Ferg, just a special thanks to Ferg, who came in today. I rang him yesterday. I forgot to mention that I was in court this morning, and he was there in like Flinny, picked me up, brought me to the courthouse and whatever, and stayed with me for the morning and the afternoon. And I'm really proud of that man and the work. And he is the people that I'm talking about earlier. That this establishment, this regime, and basically the enemy. They don't know what they're dealing with. They don't know what the steel that's in people like Ferg that are out there, and they're not. We're not going to lose to these people,
Yeah, absolutely, and that's the thing. Like Ferg is someone that, as another person that I think should be running in his area. I think he'd romp home. I think he's doing such a great job, and he's been so consistent as well too. He's another person that I'm definitely going to try my best as well too to get on the stream and have a chat with, because I know an awful lot of people are hungry to hear from Ferg, and I think it's been a brilliant chat here tonight, and I really appreciate you, Philip. I really appreciate your time for coming on here and talking.
Appreciate you, Ninja, and don't ever underestimate the caliber and the quality of what you're putting out week in, week out, and the messaging and everything else, and your logical take on things, and your satirical take on things, your humor, everything. It's so appreciated. I know so many people who are there to drop and they say, I can't do this. If you say they can't do the stream, I'll be on next week. You know what I mean? And it shows you that what you're doing is quality. It's quality content. It's quality commentary, and it's really appreciated. I'm one of your biggest fans, and I think I always will be. Someday, please, God, Ninja, we'll get to meet in person. I'll get to shake your hand, give you a hug, buy you a pint, whatever it is. Just to be Irish with you again. Okay.
Absolutely. 100%, man. 100%.
Thanks
much appreciated. Right, guys, we're going to end the stream there. Thanks very much for dropping in. I'll talk to you next week. Back at Thursday, 8 o'clock next week. That's the plan at the moment. These Thursdays seem to be working out nicely, they do. So I think we might be looking at a switch of a day, but we'll see. I know people are saying that the day early, you're far right, Ninja, you're a day early. We're not used to this. We're not. So we'll say goodbye there, guys. Have a great weekend. God bless. And I'll talk to you later.